Oh, there we go. Stream is live.
Hey, we did it. We're live. Everybody, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Chewin the Fat. And this one's going to ruffle some feathers. This one's going to break the YouTube barriers. We're going to break down the walls because people are chomping at the bit to hear what this guy has to say. And
I'm ready.
he's ready. I'm ready. And Joel, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When I announced that you were coming on the show the other day, like right away, my phone and everything starts blowing up. And believe it or not, yes, the fans are excited and happy, but the workers, the old TWA crew, the early ECW guys, were messaging me and telling me how happy they are that you're coming on. And the general consensus is that we all love you, Joel, and we want you to know that. And we truly are thankful for everything you did for us.
Well, I always tell everybody I'd rather be seen than viewed. So there you go. Okay. So I'm ready. I'm ready. Whoever wants to talk to me, I'm ready.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! There's so much to talk about.
You ask, I answer.
All right, here you go. Let's. So we did an interview a year ago, but we're going to recap some of that stuff because
Okay.
a lot of people did not see that one. I think we're going to get a lot more hits on this one,
Okay.
and also too, as I saw Joel in an interview the other night, Friday night on Cheap Heat Productions. Great guys. I did their show before as well, but I was like, all these questions were popping up in my head to ask, like, and I was like, damn, why didn't I ask him when I had him on? So, let's just recap some stuff because something that was kind of interesting too that like was sticking out in my head from the other night was like it was truly complete accident that you got involved in this crazy world of pro wrestling.
It really was. I mean, the business that I'm in, financial services, I've been in financial services. April 1st will be 48 years in the business. But when this thing whole started, I had worked with a number of accountants. And one of the accountants had said to me, Joel, I have somebody, one of my clients that I want to introduce you to. They have some questions. Well, as it turned out, it happened to be Carmella and Paul Panfill.
Okay.
And of course, that's history in itself. Carmella and I and Paul, we hit it off. And Paul actually suggested to me after we had talked about what he had asked about, he said to me, by the way, if you ever need tickets for anything, Broadway shows, concerts, sporting events, it's a little bit extra, but I can get you good seats. And I said, fine, I'll keep that in mind. And a couple of weeks later, Paul calls me up and says, by the way, what are you doing Saturday night? And I said, at that time I was separated. There's nothing that I'm aware of. He says, well, why don't you go to wrestling? You want to go to the wrestling matches? And I said, sure. I had been a wrestling fan for years. My father took me when I was a kid. And I told the story. I saw Bruno Sammartino and Spiros Arion. And Spiros Arion was my guy. Okay. And so I went to the match. So anyway, I go with Paul to the matches. And he's got me on the front row. And I said,
Now,
okay.
where was that? Was that the at the Spectrum or?
I believe it was the Civic Center because if I remember correctly, it was an NWA show.
Okay.
And there I am in the front row, and there's Rock and Roll Express against Midnight Express and the Road Warrior. And this stuff, they're stiff as all hell. They're working like crazy. And I said to myself, this is great. And so Paul and I started going to matches together. And that was it. To me, it was innocent. I was just going to go to the matches, get front row seats. Well, as I'm watching before the show starts, before the card starts, there's this guy walking around the ring. And he's wearing a suit and tie. And I'm thinking to myself, it just didn't fit. And I happen to say, I'm very proactive when it comes to this stuff. I figured, let me introduce myself. So the guy's walking around. I said, I got to ask you a question. Do you mind if I introduce myself? You don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. Who are you? And he said, well, my name is Elliot Murnick. Now, he has since passed away.
Okay.
And I said, okay, Elliot, my name's Joel Goodhart. Who are you? And he says, I'm a promoter. I work with Crockett's organization, and I'm here in Philadelphia. And so we opened up the new territory here in Philly. And the guy never took a plane. He always took his boat. And he told me he's got a boat, and he gets in the boat in North Carolina and brings the boat. I don't know how long that takes. So anyway, long story short, he says, I got to ask you something. Why don't you come back to the Marriott? Okay, that's where we go after the matches. What the hell do I know? Who the heck ever went to the Marriott? Okay, so I wasn't even sure which Marriott he's talking about. He told me the airport Marriott. Okay, so I go back to the airport Marriott. He said he wanted to have a drink with me. Well, I don't drink, but I said, okay, unlike you alcoholic. So I said, okay, let me go sit down with him. I sit down. I order myself a Diet Coke, and one thing leads to the other, and we just had a nice conversation. Now, one of the things about this, and it just happens, I happen to be Jewish, and Elliot Murnick was Jewish. Well, you can't find two Jewish guys involved in wrestling anywhere, and here it just so happened. So anyway, one thing leads to the other, and after 1, 2, 3 months of this stuff, he says to me, "Can I ask you a question? Since we get together having drinks all the time, have you ever thought about getting involved in the business?" And I said, "No." I was going to the matches with Paul. I didn't know what you took. He says, "Well, I'll tell you what. After our conversations, can you be my eyes and ears in Philadelphia?" And I said,
Wow.
"Sure." And that's how this thing all started. And I became his eyes and ears because he was in North Carolina. So anyway, long story, I could give you all the details. But eventually, he starts taking me in the back. It's how you get to meet the wrestlers, the boys.
Right.
And he would take me in the back, and Elliot introduced me to Ric Flair, and he introduces, what do they know? They thought I was the total mark, which I was at that point.
Sure.
And one thing led to the other. And before I know it, a lot of these guys started working for me with the Squared Circle fan club and doing appearances with me. And then one time, Elliot Murnick calls me up, and he says, we have an open date. It was either a Wednesday or a Thursday. We have an open date, and we want to do a show in the Philadelphia market, but we don't have any place to play. We do the Civic Center on Saturday nights. So I had to go find a building, and I wound up finding the Sheraton Valley Forge in King of Prussia. Okay. And long story short, we booked a show. And the best one, since it was in King of Prussia, Jim Cornette put together a promo that would run in the Philly market.
Okay.
And one of the things he said on the promo was, "Who is this King of Prussia?" Okay. That's the one piece I remember, the whole thing. We wound up doing a show. And again, don't hold me to the times, but the show was supposed to start at 7:30 because it was a school night. Well, at 5 o'clock, I get a phone call that all the guys are still fogged in North Carolina. And what should we do? And I said, I got 2,000, whatever it was, 2,000 people here. I got all these kids. It's a school night. We promoted the hell out of this thing. Long story long, they finally got flown out of North Carolina. They landed in Philly. They got to Philly at 7:30. The show was supposed to start at 7:30.
Oh, geez.
And I said, there was no cell phones back then.
Right.
So we got a phone. I got a phone call that they're on their way. I said, whoever gets here has got to start the show. Okay. Well, so what happened was J.J. Dillon gets in the car along with Jimmy Valiant.
Okay.
And Tully Blanchard.
Okay.
Well, there's no
opening match.
There's no storyline there, but that was my opening match. Okay. And they got there, they changed, they got out there and did a match until everybody else showed up.
Now, this is where, and I think you might have been the one who said this initially into the TWA boys, and this statement has stuck in my head for 3 decades now.
Yeah.
And it was to get involved in the wrestling business, you have to be fucking crazy. So your first true promoting experience is basically a nightmare.
Yeah.
And what do? You go balls in deep. He goes all in.
First of all, you are correct. I am a nut. Okay. And I loved the idea. It's in your blood, as you always talk about. It's in the blood.
Yeah.
When I started running shows, and we started putting the show. I mean, before all this happened, when Carmel and I did our first show, because Dominic DiNucci and Carmel were very tight, and Dominic happened to say to us, "Did you guys ever think of running a show?" And Carmel and I looked at each other like, "No." Well, we did a show in the Chamonix High School gym. If you remember, you remember the area in the Chamonix High School.
Yeah.
It's a high school that if you don't know where it's at, you can't get to it. Okay. Right. Anyway, we wound up having about 125 wrestling fans. Our main event was Dominic DeNucci against the mighty Igor. Now, by the time we had that show, Dominic DeNucci was at the end of his career. Mighty Igor was 10 years past that. Okay. Right. And nobody, again, if you weren't a wrestling fan, you didn't know who they were. But on that show, I had Shane Douglas, because Shane Douglas was a student of Dominic DeNucci's.
Now that's crazy. When I heard you the other night, I was blown away by that.
Yep. And every time I see Shane, which is not that often, but when he comes to the icons that Rob Feinstein has or what have you, we sit and talk about it. And he remembers being on the show. He remembers more details about the show than I do. Okay. But yeah, Shane Douglas, he wasn't wrestling as Shane Douglas at that point, but he was on the card. Yep. And again, once we got into it, what was interesting is even though we had 125, give or take, people there, the nut in me saw the opportunity. Okay. And one of the first shows that we did on a bigger level at the Sheraton Valley Forge, my main event was Abdullah the Butcher against Bruiser Brody.
Okay.
Think about that one. Okay. And I don't know about you, but when you get in the business, even from a promoting standpoint, if you get the Bruiser Brodys and Abdullah Butchers and you watch some of the matches, you got to want to be in.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
is that under NWA banner?
No. That was an independent card. Okay. We did the NWA show, and then Sheraton Valley Forge wanted me to run some more shows. Okay, so now it was independent cards, and when you had Bruiser, and don't even ask me how I got those guys. Okay, I have no clue other than obviously I paid them. Okay,
right.
I don't remember how I got to them, but that was the main event. Okay, and when you have a main event of Bruiser Brody, and then if you do the NWA show, and there's Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. Now the show that I had at Sheraton Valley Forge, Ric Flair was not on it. So it was kind of like a B show, one of those B shows. But I'm in the back, and I'm with the boys. Mm-hmm. And one thing leads to the other. And then, and it's funny because the one thing you learn about wrestlers is they're looking for, especially on the independent circuit, they're looking for paydays.
Absolutely.
Okay, and they want to make sure your check's clear. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I told the story the other night on Cheap Heat. I told them the story about my first show that I did at Temple University. Mm-hmm. And this was a great story because Temple University, I had the Junkyard Dog against Paul Jones on the card. Okay. And I thought because Temple University was in an urban area, let me at least get Junkyard Dog on the card.
Sure.
And then it started to snowball, and I wound up having a match of David Sammartino against Larry Zbyszko.
Okay.
And David Sammartino's corner, I had Bruno. Mm-hmm. And on Larry Zbyszko's corner, I had Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously. Okay. Now, again, that was a pretty strong. What happened was in the back, in the locker room, everybody's hanging at the end waiting for their payday. You know how that works. Mm-hmm. Bruno Sammartino says as loud as can be in the locker room, he had a plane to catch at the airport. Now, if you know where Temple University is, it's about a half hour from the airport.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you could walk right up to the plane. Mm-hmm. Okay. He says in front of everybody, "Hey, Joel, send me my check. I got to get out of here." He says that and he leaves.
He instantly put you over.
What that said to every wrestler in there is his check is good. Now, keep in mind, I got to Bruno through Carmella. And we had Bruno Sammartino and Dominic DeNucci at our grand opening of our store.
Okay. So you guys actually started promoting these shows before the store, the radio show, the fan club, and all.
Well, in fact, I'm not exactly sure the independent show that we started, the first one, was because we had a store. And what actually happened was we had, if I remember correctly, we had Bruno and Dominic at the store. And that's when Dominic asked me and Carmella, how about thinking about running a show? I mean, I didn't know Dominic at all. It was Carmella. I mean, Carmella knew them. So and again, he was itching for a payday.
It's crazy that, I mean, we're talking mid-late 80s that you guys were doing this. Yeah. And who would have thought then there was going to be a pro wrestling store? Now it's like a common occurrence. Like there's one in every freaking city now. But, you guys were so ahead of your time.
We were so ahead of schedule. The Squared Circle was the name of the store. Okay.
Now, where was it?
It was in a place called the I-95 Marketplace, which is no longer there.
Right. I remember it. I remember the name of it.
The reason that it worked for me, not so much as Carmel, with me is I have a full-time career. Right. Well, the I-95 Marketplace was open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay. So I was able to work around my schedule. Now, Carmella at the time, she was a full-time mom. So she was working around, and that's certainly a lot more important than my career. And so Paul was kind of in behind the scenes. Paul was never one that wanted to be out front. Carmella and I were eating it up like crazy. And what was weird was when we started the store, true story, when we started the store, I'm not retail. I have no clue what I'm doing. Carmella certainly didn't know what she was doing. And all of a sudden, we started getting the word out. And then we found out the wholesalers that would sell you the posters and the magazines. And one of the things that we tried to do was try to have everything. This store was no bigger than a closet. Okay. But we wanted to, anyway, people started coming to our store, and we had a TV set. It was a regular TV. It wasn't a 55-inch high def because there was no such thing. And we would run tapes. Well, we would run tapes that nobody would know of. People would sit now keep in mind the store was open from like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, something like that. They would sit there the whole time. Okay. And the store that made the most money wasn't us. It was all the food outlets. People would go and grab slices of pizza. We were a draw. We were a draw. And the I-95 Marketplace was a bunch of, I call them schmatters. They sold a lot of junk. But our store was, oh my God, and it took off. And then I remember one time, Carmel and I each got dressed up as the Road Warriors with makeup. I mean, stupid stuff, okay? And people would come and watch it was unbelievable. And it's funny because this is before the internet. This is before all this stuff. Oh my God, we were able, and then people used to come every weekend. They were there all day, every weekend. They'd open the store with us, close the store with us. Then one day, just to take it a little step further, somebody comes in the store by the name of Roger Crone, who has since passed away. Okay. Roger Crone comes in and he says to me, or to Carmella, I can't remember who he said, "Did you guys ever think about being on the radio?" And I'm looking like, no, who the hell ever thought of that? He says, well, I'm a sales rep, meeting him. I'm a sales rep with WTTM in Trenton. Okay. And because we were in the I-95 Marketplace, we were actually in Trenton's, where the air signal was. Mm-hmm. So we said, let's try it. So we decided to do Saturday morning, I think from 7:30 to 8, so that we
What a horrible time, by the way.
But we would do that and then go open the store.
Okay.
Okay. And keep in mind, I don't have time. Carmella certainly doesn't have time with the baby. This is crazy. We decided to go on the radio. We started on the radio, and the signal is Trenton, New Jersey. Well, I'll be the first to tell you, Trenton, New Jersey is not the hotbed of professional wrestling.
Right.
But, oh, my God. Now, he was charging us $75 for the half hour. Okay. And, of course, we had the right to go find advertisers. Well, who's going to advertise on a radio station that nobody can hear? Yeah. Okay. Well, sure enough, we started to get a following. All right. Now, Roger Crone, as it turned out, became a client of mine, which is how I kind of kept in touch with him. Roger Crone calls us one day and he says he's leaving WTTM in Trenton. And he's going to a radio station in Philly called WDVT, Delaware Valley Talk. Okay. And it was the station owned by Frank Ford. Okay. So we go to meet with Carmel, and I go to meet with Frank Ford and his people. And we decide that we're going to take the radio show we'll follow Roger Crone. We left WTT, and now we're going into a radio station in Philly.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was based in Society Hill. Okay. And unbelievable. So we do Friday nights and Sunday mornings.
Oh, you did 2 shows?
Did 2 shows. Okay.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Now, the Friday night show, we were on until the air signal died. The way it was just, we were on till sometime 7, and then all of a sudden died. Then we did Sundays. Well, on Sundays, we were in a glass encased station. So you could literally sit there and watch, in this case, Carmel and I do the radio show.
All right.
Well, I have the perfect face for radio. Okay. So here we are. We now have 30, 40, 50 people coming to our show. They're watching our show. They're listening it because the sound goes outside. Okay. Carmela and her contacts got Jerry Lawler and got some other people to come on the radio. And that's how this whole thing snowballed. Okay. Then
everything just was like by accident. And that's what makes it so special.
This is the best one of all. Then we get a phone call in the midweek that Frank Ford decided to close up shop, to close the radio station. And Carmel and I, neither of us had a chance to say goodbye on the radio. Okay. So Carmel and I get together. There was a restaurant in Northeast Philly that escapes me, and we get together for lunch. And I said to Carmel, what are we going to do? And who knows? I said, let me try something. When I was in high school, there was at that time, a girl by the name of Betty Burnham. Okay. Now, that's a name. There's no 2 people with the name of Betty Burnham. Okay.
Right.
Well, as it turned out, if you listen to WIP radio, the newscaster and weather forecaster was a woman by the name of Betty Burnham. So I figured, let me go call. Maybe I can use the fact that I went to high school with her. Maybe it'll be an in. I go and I call. I swear to God, I call the radio station, ask for Betty Burnham, and a guy answers the phone. And the guy says, can I help you? And he says, yeah, I'd like to talk to Betty Burnham. And he said, well, I got to tell you, to be honest, she's okay. She was in a car accident the other day, and she won't be back on the air for a couple of weeks. I said, well, I figured that was the end of my story. So I said, can I ask who I'm speaking to? And he says, yeah, Tom Brookshire. Okay. So Tom Brookshire was an on-air talent, but this was a fledgling radio station. He answered the phone. So I said, well, you're not going to know who I am, Tom, but my name is Joel Goodhart. And he says, Wrestling Radio. And it's unbelievable. And I'm saying to myself, are you kidding me? I'll tell you why I'm calling. The WDVT went off the air, I'm sure you heard, and I'm looking for a home base. He says, I'm a wrestling fan. I listen to you every once in a while. This is Tom Brookshire, okay, a Hall of Fame guy from football.
Yeah.
And he says to me, literally, he says, 2 days ago, I was on an airplane coming from Texas with Dusty Rhodes. Oh, my God. So I go to see him, and the next thing I know, we're on the radio on WIP, the major Now, he was charging us for the hour.
Sure.
Okay. But, oh, my God. So because I went to high school to this day, I haven't.
Did you ever end up talking to her? You didn't talk to her.
It's unbelievable. To this day, I don't even know if she's still in the area.
That's hysterical.
Okay, and that's how I got onto WIP, and then we started with WIP, and Carmel at that point realized it was taking a lot of time away from her daughter, so they basically decided to kind of fade away from the radio, and I just kept running with it. Now, the good news is I ran with it. The bad news is it cost me a fortune. Okay.
Why didn't you stop me?
I'll tell you, I got into it to the point, and again, the key now is because of the time. Here I established Ringmasters Wrestling School, okay, which was never going to compete with the Monster Factory, but it was something. So we did the wrestling. We did a wrestling school. I had the Squared Circle, which eventually we closed up. I had the WIP radio show. Mm-hmm. And then I started running these independent promotions and the shows that I decided to create the TWA. Okay, and I did Tri-State Wrestling Alliance because I was going to be wrestling in 3 states. As it turned out, we did 4.
Were any of those making money? I mean, some of them, none of them.
No. Well, I won't say no. When I had 600 people at Temple University, okay, the show made money. The problem was I was paying $750 a week to WIP for the radio show.
Oh shit! Okay. It was that much.
It was that. Now, keep in mind, that was back in the late 80s. That was when it was real money. That was real money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Holy shit.
And here the problem was, and look, hindsight 30 years later, I was a lousy businessman.
Right.
Okay. Because what I should have done in hindsight is have somebody in charge of the money, have an accountant, really do the account. I kept track of it, but I wound up, I lost $168,000.
Oh.
Okay. Now, $168,000 today is real money.
I don't feel too bad.
And then, now that was over 3 or 4 years. I actually got to a point where I left financial services because I thought I could make a go of it full time.
Right.
Okay. I tried. Okay. And to a certain extent, I did okay. Now, the problem was I had no television. I didn't know how to get onto TV. Back then, TV was different than it is today.
Was it ever in your mind to try to get TV? Like,
oh my God, I had conversations. It never got to the point where I was sitting down with a production company and trying to figure it out. Okay. Now, the one thing you learn, if you're going to do TV, you got to do 3 or 4 shows in one shot. You got to, and look, Todd Gordon and ECW, those guys did Cabrini College and they took off and they took it to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay. What could I have done TV? Sure. Problem is the Eddie Gilberts, the Paulie Dangerousleys were all working with me before they ever worked with them.
Yeah.
Okay. And look, hindsight, I still haven't read Todd's book, so I don't know what's in the book.
Do you think Todd is God?
No, Todd. Look, Todd. And again, haven't read the book. Yeah, Todd took what I would try to do and took it to another level. All right. Now, I don't know if that makes him God, but look, God bless Todd. He did what he had to do. Now, I wound up, I heard it cost him his marriage. I heard it cost him a fortune. I thought I lost a lot of money. He lost a lot of money. At some point, I'm going to read the book. Well, here's what I do know. If you look at, now, keep in mind, I never, to this day, I have not watched a single ECW show. I haven't bought the tapes.
You didn't keep tabs on things? You didn't know things were blowing up? Nothing.
January 18th of 1992 when I went off the radio. Okay? Until Mike Tartaglia called me in 2009.
Right.
I did not watch a single wrestling show at all. Didn't buy a single magazine at all. Did not take any of the newsletters. Nothing. I walked away. When I walked away, I turned my back to it all.
And yet, you have to. Like I did. Like when I closed up in 2002, I did the same thing. Because I think I think we're very much like. If you're seeing it, you want to get fucking involved.
Yeah, you have to turn your back. And it's funny. The reason I bring this up. Yeah, you asked me if Todd is God. I don't know. Okay. I've seen Todd twice. Okay. One time I saw him at a convention.
Yeah, I got a picture with the 3 of us together.
The 3 of us took a picture. Yeah. And then another time I saw him at Icons. Okay. He was one of the Icon tables. Now, here's what I do know. The ECW would have never existed without TWA.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bob Ortiz, who was the ring announcer, was a ringside seat. He sat front row in all my shows. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I took care of Lex. Lex got the hell with Bob. I took care of Lex. Okay. Yeah. And Bob and Lex for each of my shows. Eventually, Bob became an investor in TWA, which that was a mistake. Todd Gordon obviously came to me through Variety Club, and he was an advertiser on my show.
Right.
Okay. So all the ECW stuff happened because of TWA, and if you watch if you go to YouTube and watch some of my old matches, there you see Bob Ortiz on ringside, There you see people who have become wrestlers sitting ringside. There's the hat guy. There's Vladimir. There's all the hardcores. They're all there. God knows, I had people flying in, driving in, busing in from New York. John Arezzi from New York. He used to have bus trips coming down to my shows. I mean, what we accomplished without TV is unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, let me ask you this, because I don't know if you've gone through, if you go through like the rabbit hole of YouTube, people's done interviews with Todd, and there's interviews with Todd, and I've been watching, and he talks about you, and he said the way you would book your shows, which I never thought this. He said the way you booked your shows was you would look through a wrestling magazine and say, all right, I want this person, I want that person, and you would find your talent.
No, I'll tell you, it wasn't that drastic, although I'll tell you, I read the magazines, okay?
Right.
The one thing, I was the total mark. I was a wrestling fan. I used to watch some old tapes, and one time I remember seeing exotic Adrian Street against Jimmy Valiant. And that was Georgia, okay? Yeah. And I used to love the Southern matches, Georgia wrestling, Florida wrestling. I decided I wanted that match on my card.
Right.
Now, I can guarantee you not one person bought a ticket because of that match, and that was part of the problem, okay? I had a match. I get a hold of Adrian through Austin Idol, okay? I get to Adrian Street, and I talk to him, and Adrian tells me flat out he doesn't come north of the Mason-Dixon line. Okay, so that eliminates me. That's not going to happen unless I do a show in Maryland. All right. Well, that doesn't stop me. I find out, and again, unfortunately, he passed away, so I won't tell the story. But there was something that he thoroughly enjoyed. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. And I found out somebody in Pittsburgh did the same thing. All right. So I call Adrian up and I said, tell you what we're going to do. I want you to meet this guy in Pittsburgh. I'll fly you into Pittsburgh, and then you'll drive to Philly. Okay. That's how I got him on the card. Now, Boogie Woogie had been on one of my shows previous. Yeah. So I called him up and I said, I want to just restart the Georgia. Okay. So Boogie says, no problem. Let's do it. Now, I'm actually in Jimmy Valiant's book. Okay, but in the book, he calls me Joe Goodhart, not Joel Goodhart. And every time I don't see him that often, but when he was doing one of the icons for Rob, he said to me, I apologize. I didn't put your name correctly in there. Anyway, they come in, and Jimmy Valiant comes in. I wanted this match to happen. Okay?
That was the opening match on the show, wasn't it?
No, it was like third or fourth match. Okay. Third or fourth. And Jimmy Valiant comes out to his music. And sure enough, Adrian comes out with Miss Linda, and he does his whole routine.
Yeah.
Now, in the back, before the matches, best quote someday I will write a book called this. Jimmy Valiant says to Adrian Street, just don't put me in a hole I can't get out of. Okay. Jimmy was basically done at that point. Adrian comes in, and Adrian was always put together.
Yeah.
Adrian comes in, they do the match. If you ever see it's on video, it's on YouTube. It's a horrible match. Okay. And Miss Linda throws the pocketbook, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Well, as it turned out, I had to fly Miss Linda and Adrian in and Jimmy Valiant. So I had 3 air flights. I had 2 hotel rooms, plus the match for a match that nobody wanted to see but me. Okay. So did that come from, it could have come from a magazine. But when I looked, I'm telling you, I knew enough about what was going on. I mentioned in the podcast yesterday, my goal was to take the best of Memphis, the best of Florida, the best of Georgia, the best of the Pacific Northwest, the best of world class. Okay. And that's what I did. And I took the best of all. I mean, why was Austin Idol on my shows? All right. Aside from the fact that the guy's a tremendous worker, he doesn't sell any tickets up. He didn't sell any tickets for me.
No.
Okay. But you want to know something? The Terry Funks and, the Jerry Lawlers sold tickets for me.
Right.
Curry Von Erich sold tickets for me.
Sure.
Kevin Von Erich didn't sell me a single ticket. Chris Adams didn't sell me a single ticket. So I had a load of talent that wasn't going to make me any money. Okay, and that was the problem. In hindsight, my shows were stacked with the big shows were stacked with talent, but the best part of the shows was the local talent. All right, and that's why I'm picking up on what you're running with. You give me Johnny Hotbody, Tony Stetson, Larry Winters at that point, then DC Drake, and then add into that the Chubby Dudleys of the world and the Rockin' Rebels and the Jimmy Genettis and the Clint Osbornes.
Well, we can kick Rebel the fuck out of there.
Well, okay, I understand that. Sandman, Sandman, JT Smith, I can give you the names. The kicker is I wound up every show that I had 6 main events.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's funny because one of the things that I'm starting to contemplate is putting together a TWA reunion. Okay? And needless to say, Chubby, you'll be involved, even though you never actually wrestled in the TWA. Okay?
That's what when I was finally set to make my fucking debut in February of '92.
It was your fault.
It was my fault. I fucked it up for everybody. But when you made that announcement on Wrestling Radio that morning, I used to do a telemarketing job working for my sister, and I remember sitting in the back office listening, and you making that, and I was like flabbergasted and dumbfounded. And naturally, the first call I make was to Janetti, who was, and still to this day, my right-hand man. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? What this can't be real. And he was like, no. And then he turns on the radio, and like everybody was just blindsided. Like nobody knew.
And it's weird. I mean, and again, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have done it differently. Okay. But I had to turn my back on the business. Okay. And it's funny because I find out from others who have done the same thing. The business gets in your blood, and you got to walk away and turn your back. I'm getting the itch again. Okay. Now,
don't do it.
Okay. I'll be 71 years old this year. What the hell do I need this stuff for? But, okay, I remember getting a phone call from a couple people. They're contemplating doing a TWA reunion. Now, back in 2009, keep in mind, I got off the air in 1992. 2009, 17 years later, did not watch one wrestling card, did not read one magazine, nothing. Okay, I had no clue what was going on. I get a phone call from Michael Bruno.
Yes.
His name is Michael Tartaglia. He calls me up, and I hadn't talked. Michael Bruno went to my school, the Ringmasters Wrestling School. He tagged up with Tony Stetson. He calls me up and he says, the reason for my call, I tracked you down and I'm contemplating doing a TWA show. Do you mind if I use the name TWA? And I said to him, I haven't used it in 17 years. I don't give a shit. Excuse my English. Use it. Well, he doesn't tell me what he's going to do with it. So he has the reunion show. He has a show.
Right.
And he has Buddy Landell come in because Buddy Landell actually retired a TWA belt when he was the champion. And he needed to get rid of the belt because he wasn't going to keep coming up local here. So he wrestled, I think it was Glenn Osborne. Okay. And Glenn wins the belt from Buddy Landell. Well, then they have some kind of ECWA, TWA merger.
Yeah.
And they buried the TWA belt. They buried everything. Michael Bruno killed the TWA.
Yeah.
I worked so damn hard to bring it up. He asked me for the name, and then he buried it. Okay. Now, I still love Michael. I mean, I have no problem with Michael.
Yeah.
But and I don't know, I would have done the same damn thing. Well, now I got the itch. And I'll tell you what happened. A couple years back, the ECWA, which is a local organization in the area, they asked me if I could be a manager just to kind of get some stuff. So I became a manager. I sucked at it, but I was a manager. Okay. And it was great to just be ringside. Now, unfortunately, I've had a health history over the last couple of years, and I'll never be ringside again. But I'm telling you, I saw matches between the two local wrestlers, Breaker Morant and Chris Wilde.
Okay.
Those two guys would have been my DC Drake and Larry Winters. Those matches that those guys did were phenomenal. All right. And I know Breaker's still doing. I know Chris is still around. I'm telling you, if I got involved with a TWA reunion show, my main event, I'm telling you right now, it's Chris Wilde against Breaker Moran.
Well, isn't there a TWA show? I could have swore I heard something a few weeks ago.
There's rumors all over the place.
Okay.
All right. I know that Michael Bruno's been contemplating it. I know Breaker's been contemplating it. I'm telling you, if I was involved, and God knows they may not get me involved. If I was involved, I would get all the TWA guys. Now, not in the ring, because at this point, Johnny Hotbody, Tony, I want to remember the guys from when we did it 30 years ago, okay? Yeah. But there's enough guys. I can get a hold of Jimmy Giannetti because I know he's still involved. I can get a hold of DC Drake. I saw DC about 3 or 4 months ago up in Rhode Island. He got inducted into the New England Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I went up to see it because he was there for me. I wanted to be there for him. I know that Johnny Hotbody's around. I know that obviously Larry Winters is gone, but we can get all the guys, the Glenn Osborne's. My guess is JT Smith I lost touch with. I had his calls in Virginia. Now he's not returning calls. I don't even know if that's still his phone number.
I've been given 2 numbers, and he doesn't respond to either.
Well, and I can give you the number I have just to see if it's the same number. But
probably I got it. One of the numbers I got was from Bruno.
Well, no, I got this from JT. And he came to one of the Icon shows.
Okay.
And at the Icon show, he happened to tell me that his doctor basically said he had 11 concussions, and the doctor said you better not have a 12th. And that's how he got out of the business. But theoretically, if I got the word out that we're having a TWA reunion, I think enough of the guys had positive responses that they would come for the show. They would be there. I'm picturing, I swear to God, I'm picturing a Breaker Moran, Chris Wilde match with Tony Stetson in one corner and Johnny Hotbody in the other, acting not as managers because they don't get involved, no bumps or anything, just to be there. Then I'm picturing I had the matches that I had with Sandman and JT Smith were as good as they got. Okay. And I would love to have those 2 guys in corners and have 2 local wrestlers. Okay. And get the right wrestlers. I want the best of the best. Okay. Yeah. And if I'm involved, to me, I know this sounds crazy. I think it should be held at the 2300 Arena. Okay. Because Johnny Hotbody got that building. Okay. And I think that building itself has a reputation. All right. And then if somehow or another, all the people that have had some success because of what we did, I mean, even Rob Feinstein, okay, Rob's got a bit, he's still in the business doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Okay. I threw Rob out of one of my buildings. Okay. Curry Von Erich was coming. No. Rob was a kid. Okay. Curry was signing autographs and he just goes up and he rings the bell. Like the whole world stops because they thought the matches were going to start again. I threw him out. Okay. But my guess is if I got involved and I asked Rob Feinstein to be involved, he would be involved. Okay. I know you would be involved. I could just go down. I'm telling Glenn Osborne, I know would be involved. I don't know if Sandman would do it, but I would love for him to be involved. I could go down the list of people that we worked with. And
all I know is too, and I've started saying it, and you mentioned it the other night, and I've been doing as many podcasts that will have me on, and I'm promoting my channel, and I'm promoting the fact that it is fucking deserved and should happen, and I want to see this banner raised in that arena. Yes, you guys didn't have anything really truly to do with the happenings over the years of the arena, but you guys were the foundation, the groundwork that set the path of what happened to the future of wrestling in Philadelphia. You guys are the godfathers of Philadelphia fucking wrestling, and I want to see a banner with Johnny Hotbody, Tony Stetson, the legend himself, Larry Winters, DC Drake, and you, Joel. It should be every person that comes through those fucking doors of that arena, they should know you 5 guys. Everybody walking through that door, they would not walk through that door if it wasn't for you 5 guys.
Yeah, and it's funny. I know you took up this whole challenge with the banner, and I don't know if you're getting any responses from anybody, positive or negative. Clearly, hindsight is always 20/20. Yes, we focalize. We put the vision together. Now, keep in mind, DC Drake, Larry Winters, Johnny Hotbody, and Tony Stetson were there way before me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I took them to the next level. I mean, okay, there's no question. But I'm telling you that there were people before me. Yeah. There are obviously tons after me. Mm-hmm. But clearly, we set it all on. The whole Attitude Era started with us. Okay. And we don't get enough credit. And the fact that you've taken this challenge to get that banner up, again, don't know if you're getting positive or negative reaction to it. You're right. The 5 of us, and I think you can even add more. You can, we were able to get this. Think about this one. My referees were John Finnegan, okay, Joe Zanoli, Jim Molyneux. Joe Zanoli is still in the business. Yeah. Working with ECWA. Jim Molyneux is still doing appearances. John Finnegan is still refereeing. God bless him.
Yeah.
Okay. The ring announcing that I had was myself, Todd Gordon, who went on to do ECW. Okay. Bob Ortiz, who was the ring announcer for ECW. Okay. All that stuff started with us. Now, my wrestling school was taught by Larry Winters and Ron Shaw. Mm-hmm. Ron Shaw, I have no clue where he's at. I've tried to track him down. I know his real name. I keep tracking, go on Facebook. I'd love if we ever did a TWA show, I want him there. Okay. I don't know if he's still around, still involved, whatever. Obviously, Larry passed on, and Larry's sons are in the area. And somehow or another, if we were going to do anything, I'd get one of Larry's sons to be there. They
should be there.
Larry was my booker. None of this would have happened without Larry Winters.
Exactly.
Okay. I sit back. There are people in the area that graduated from Monster Factory that worked for me. There are people that graduated our school that worked for me. There's a guy, one of them I'm seeing almost this coming Saturday night up in Reading. I happen to do some shows, not wrestling shows, but entertainment shows on the side of wrestling. Other than wrestling, I have a company called Friendly Heart. I had Blackheart was me, wrestling-wise. Friendly Heart is my promotions, and then there's Goodhart. So I'm tripolar. I tell everybody I'm tripolar. But anyway, I'm going to say one of the security guards in the building in Reading is a former wrestler. Okay. Jeff Gripley.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see him. I'm seeing him Saturday night because I'm doing a show at the building that he's at. Well, there's enough people around that I think we can get some of the old school. We can get some of the new school. Like I said, in my mind, assuming I can get them Breaker Moran against Chris Wilde, I would put that match anywhere. And I would do it if I ever got back into this stuff. I'd do a program with those guys. I could build a whole promotion around. Okay. Okay. So, and it's wild and no pun intended.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to do was, again, I was saying, Hotbody called me yesterday, and we were talking when I told him you were coming on, and he just over and over, he just kept saying, please tell Joe I love him. Please tell him I love him. And I said, really, truly, that early TWA core group, we were truly like family. So I thought it'd be nice to bring somebody on here to hang out with us that I know you haven't talked to in a while, and I'm in touch with all the time. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have met this guy. And he's truly family to me. The one and only Jimmy Janetti.
All right.
Gentlemen.
There you go. How are you doing?
I am good, Joe. How are you?
Well, health-wise, I'm in good shape. I have my issues. No question. I'm sure you know the story. I have my issues. But I feel great. On a scale of 1 to 10, I feel like an 11.
Wow.
and I feel good enough to think about doing this shit again.
Somebody should chair shot you and knock you back to sense.
So you down in Florida?
I am down in Boynton Beach area, West Palm
Cool.
Beach area.
Cool. God bless. That's great. I'm telling you, if you watch some, I don't know if you get a chance on YouTube to watch some of the old videos. And
Occasionally, yeah.
There's some videos from Jimmy Giannetti. Well, at that time he wasn't Jimmy Giannetti, but he was working security for me at the Temple shows. And the one match I had with Paul Orndorff, he was the guy that brought Paul Orndorff out. Okay, and Paul Orndorff followed Jimmy to the ring. Okay, so but that's the story from all the matches that we did, even using Jimmy as a classic example. He just wanted to hang out and be something. So I had him doing security, and he's the one that led Paul Orndorff out. And lo and behold, he winds up in the business, and there he is.
I try, and I also tried to save DC Drake's life from going over the side of the the platform that day. God help him.
Well, and the best one, if you ever want to watch the video with the Sheik, and Jimmy Giannetti gets cut, it's a classic. And it's on YouTube. It's classic.
Was it Abby said cut him? She cut him.
Oh my God, it was the scariest words I ever heard come out of that man's mouth. But God bless. And it wasn't even that. If that wasn't bad enough, the cut didn't start bleeding right away until Bulldog Brower grabbed a disposable camera and smashed me right in the head with it. And then it was all over. Everything was.
Wait. You mentioned Bulldog Brower. You're going to love this one. Okay. One day I get a phone call. Okay, out of nowhere, I get a phone call. It's Bulldog Brower. Okay. Now I'm an old school guy. This is the same Bulldog Brower that wrestled Bruno Sammartino like a dozen times in the Madison Square Garden to sellouts. Okay. And he calls me up out of nowhere and he says, he lives in Delaware. Do you mind if I come to your show? I said, no, come on. I'll comp you a ticket. Well, come on. Who are you kidding me? So he comes in the back. He comes to the show. And of course, he had an ulterior motive. He had his kid, his son. Okay. I said to Bulldog, there's no way I'm letting you in the back here without you not working. So I said, you're gonna be Terry Funk's manager. Okay. Well, of course, Terry knew who he was, and he just stayed there. He pulled his arms a couple of times. I used Bulldog Brower. I had a promotion where I had as managers Paulie Dangerously. Okay, he was a manager. I had Luna Vachon as a manager. I had Woman as a manager. I had Baby Doll as a manager. Okay, I had Bulldog Brower as a manager. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that, but Bulldog Brower called me out of nowhere. He got my number from somebody and said, can you mind if I come to a show? Okay. This was the Bulldog Brower. Okay. And I told the story the other night when I had Abdul Sheik. Okay. I needed to get Sheik's. I didn't know how to get a hold of Sheik. Well, Abby knew how to get a hold of him. Sheik called me. I didn't call Sheik. He called me and he says, I understand you're looking for me. Well, I said, sure. I told him I was going to put him in a match against Abby. I'd love to have you. And he had heard of the TWA promotion. And what really solidified a lot of what I did was the TWA name was out there.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the odds that the Sheik called me?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, one thing, Sheik never flew. So he had to be driven from Detroit. Well, his driver was Sabu. So Sabu. Yep.
I can still picture when Sabu, he did that battle royal, he came running down the aisle. I remember he's announced Sabu. I'm like, who the hell is this? And he did a flip in the ring through the ropes. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
He flew in there.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was Sabu. Now, Sabu had already been working in Detroit, so I didn't create him.
Mm-hmm.
But coming to the East Coast, the only reason he came is because he drove Sheik. I was his uncle. Okay, and so I used him. I mean, it's crazy. I had Jimmy will remember this. I had Ted Petty in his ring. Okay, and I had a
Love
match.
that ring.
I had a match at Temple University where I had him against Dr. Tom Pritchard. Okay, and Pritchard was managed by Paulie Dangerously. Now that was an example. That match didn't sell me one ticket, but I had to fly Pritchard up. I flew Paulie up. I had him against Ted Petty. Ted Petty didn't cost anything because I was using his ring. Okay, for the Bar Wars shows, I used to use Bounty Hunter's ring.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know. Is he still around, Jimmy? Do you know?
But he's not in the business anymore.
Okay, but I'm telling you, if I found him, I'm Jimmy. I was telling him before you came on.
I was listening. I
Okay.
was listening. Yeah.
Man, if you got to come up from Florida, you got to be there. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you, if we do that show, we're going to do it. I'm getting the Glenn Osbornes and the Jimmy Genettis, and I'm going to find Ted Petty has since passed, but I would love to find Bounty Hunter, Ghetto Blaster. Remember, I know he's
Merle.
I
was just thinking about Merle, and I was talking
Merle,
to somebody about him.
What was his last name? Does anybody know? I don't know his last name.
Giles, wasn't it?
If you said it, I would not. You know, somehow or another, I have boxes of crap, and some of them are the contracts that you guys signed when you came into Ringmasters. And
oh my God, you have all that stuff?
Well, I don't have all of it. Okay, now you'll love this one. I found a briefcase full of canceled checks. Okay, when I gave Scott Bigelow his check, the check was payable to Bam Bam Bigelow. Okay, I was kayfabe and everything. Okay, and so I gave him a check. DC Drake was not payable to Don Drake. It was payable to DC Drake. Okay. And what scares me, and Jimmy, you might know more of this. You guys will know more of this than me. I used to pay the local guys what they get paid today.
Yeah.
Okay. When you guys worked for me, I gave you, I think it was $50 or $75, whatever it was. And that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what some of these guys, I watched some of these guys go and get their asses kicked for $25. Okay.
Less.
Yeah, I was paying you guys $50 or $75. Okay, it's scary, and I'll tell you, when you look at again the history of this, okay, it is as clear as day. I remember, Jimmy, the last thing I heard, you were working with Jimmy Valiant at his school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were the odds that 30 years ago, the guy that was working for me to bring Paul Orndorff out is working with Jimmy Valiant at his school?
Well, then he ended up working, once he was down in Florida, he was working with Gangrel and running, training his students.
Well, and Gangrel, I still talk to him on Facebook, okay, because he obviously worked my shows. Yeah. And even I mentioned before with Jim Valiant, when he wrote his book, in the book he calls me Joe Goodhart instead of Joe. Okay, and I saw him at one of the icons that Rob Feinstein had, and he apologized that he missed.
I can honestly tell you that book was not professionally edited.
Okay.
The editor of his book is his wife, Angel.
Okay.
And she's the most wonderful woman in the world. And both of them treated me like their grandchild. It was a great experience. And I would not have met Jimmy if not for you, if not for that show.
It's unbelievable. And it's the ripple effect of whatever. And again, I wish the hell I knew I was doing what I was doing. The ripple effect of everything that we did to this day. I mean, here I got out of the business.
Crazy, isn't it?
In 92. This is 32 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I got hold of somebody. I think I told. Did I tell you? I don't know if I told you, Joel. But I got hold of somebody the other day. We've been texting all week, and he's told me tidbits, and I'm hoping he's going to be my next guest on the show. So I'll make the announcement now. But Stevie Wonderful, Steve Truitt.
Okay.
And he was just telling me yesterday when I told him you were coming on. He's like, tell Joel in my basement I have all the old Tri-State merchandise and everything. He's like, that was my job to have. He's like, then wait. He goes, wait a minute, don't tell him because then I have to go dig it all up.
Well, it's funny. I have not talked to Steve 32 years. Okay.
Yep.
And in fact,
exactly what he said.
I saw your show with Jay Sully, and Jay Sully started talking about Steve, and Steve disappeared.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the weird part is, I don't know if he's still involved in the business, not involved in the business, but I will tell you, if we ever do a TWA show, I'm getting him to do sound. And it's funny, he sucked at it. If you listen to some of the music, Jim Cornette comes out and the music stops. He sucked at it. But you want to know something? He offered to do it, and he did it.
Oh, that's funny.
Unbelievable. Do me a favor,
so
when you do talk to Steve, tell him I said hello.
I will. I reconnected him and Jay Sully. They're in talks, and yeah, Steve. I don't know the name of the restaurant, but he owns a Mexican restaurant in Manayunk.
That's right down the road from me. I mean, I'm in Bluebell, so it's 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
There can't be that many Mexican restaurants.
Right. So, all right. So I have a couple questions that I really have to ask you, Joel. So as TWA's winding down and you're starting to realize what you have to do, was there anything that you could have did to save it? I mean, because the one thing that I always wondered was, because Todd was one of your backers, one of your
a small backer.
Backer.
He had given me $15,000.
Okay. Could you have turned around and offer him a partnership of something? Do you think? Because I know he said, kind of almost like he said to you, like, well, what are you going to do?
See, here's the problem. And again, I was my own worst enemy. I'm as clear as day.
Yeah.
My shows, I want them to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Sure.
Okay. I used to admire Dennis Caraluzzo. Okay. We were competition.
Yeah.
Then he did his little shows in New Jersey, and he made money.
Okay? Always made money.
But I would do a $35,000 gate and break even. Okay. And so what happened, and the scary part now, again, 30 years later, if I would have done a show with just the local guys,
right?
Okay. No names, just the DC Drakes, Larry Winters, Jimmy Genetti's, Tony Stetson, and Johnny Hotbodies, I would have made money. Now I couldn't do the show at the Civic Center, and it would have to be a bar. You want to know something? I created Bar Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we did those shows, were the greatest.
Yeah.
They were fucking, excuse my English, they were awesome.
Yeah.
Okay? If I did a show every week at Bar Wars, I could have made money, but that's not what I wanted to do. And again, I was my own worst enemy. I tell people, I was a wrestling fan. First and primary, I was a wrestling fan. Okay. And I wanted to create where, I'll tell you a classic example, when we had the dog pound against the Blackhearts.
Right.
Okay. And if you see that video on YouTube, that match was 95% of it was outside the ring. Mm-hmm. Those guys killed each other. Mm-hmm. When the Blackhearts won the belts, that took us to another level.
Yeah.
Because the Blackhearts, they were, I would consider them my talent.
Yeah.
Okay. And Luna Vachon was one of our managers, and Luna is the one that called me up with the Blackheart gimmick. Mm-hmm. Can you use us? She was looking for work.
Yeah. Okay.
And the problem was the three of them were in Florida. So it was airfares. It was crazy. Okay. But when Gangrel, and he'll tell you the story, when they went out there, Larry Winters, my booker, called the shot. I didn't call the championship change. Larry Winters did. And when they won the strap, I was not aware they were going to do it. Okay. Wow. Total shock to me. Okay. And that was the relationship that I had with Larry. Okay. And he figured it out. He figured it out. He said, you know what? These guys are considered local talent. Okay. And they look the part. And the one thing you find when you do independent wrestling like I did, it's really tough to find guys that look like wrestlers.
Yeah.
Because if they look like it, they eventually move on and get to the bigger names.
Sure.
Okay. So you get a lot of guys. Jimmy's a classic example. Jimmy Giannetti, when in his younger, never looked like a wrestler. Okay, he got dressed like one. He looked, but he was never the muscular guy. And he was, today if you're not 6'5" and blonde hair, you don't get hired.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, the one thing you learn is I could have done things differently, and I could have stayed in the business. But that's not, I still wouldn't have done it that way. Yeah. It's just like if I decide to do a TWA reunion show, I'm only going to do it the way I want to do it. And if the Jimmy Giannettis and the Glenn Osbornes and the Chubby Dudleys and they're not involved, I'm not doing it. And to be honest, I want to find JT Smith. I don't know if Sandman will do it, but Sandman, I want him there. Okay,
he should be there.
Well, he should be. In fact, I'd like to get Peaches there too. Okay, although I don't think that's possible. Okay, but there's so many guys. There's a lot of guys today who I've never met.
Okay.
Who solely are in the business because somehow or another, for me, it went from here to here to here to it connected the dots.
Right. Well, I mean, honestly, like when I started doing I started doing a reaction channel where I'm going back and I'm watching the history of ECW and going match by match. And I'm still in the first year of Eastern Championship Wrestling on TV. And there's a huge interest and people really want to know about the early ECW days. And then they're researching and they're finding out about this TWA and Joel Goodhart and the Giannettis and Mr. Sandman and JT and Stetson and Hotbody and all these guys. And even Todd, when Todd found out about the channel about a month and a half ago, he shot me a message on Facebook. And he said the biggest thing that people ask him about his book is the Eastern Championship days, and he can't believe it.
Well, I'll go one better. I belong to the Cauliflower Alley Club.
Okay.
I'm a lifetime member. And up until I had my health history in the last couple of years, I used to go to the convention in Las Vegas.
Okay.
I go to the convention. This is 5 or 6 years. Swear to God. Baron von Raschke is there with his wife.
Okay.
I go up and I introduce myself because I had never met him. And he says to me, I swear to God, he says to me, why didn't you ever use me? Okay. And who the hell, I didn't even think of him. And I don't even know if he would have been a draw or not a draw. But that's the first thing he said. So I know that people know about the TWA.
Oh, yeah.
I know that, I know that we created something. And those who are in the business know what we did. Okay? True. And most of them appreciate what we did. When I do, every once in a while, when I go to Rob's Icons, when he does the Icons in Philadelphia, and I start seeing people, that they come up and they thank me for what I did. Mm-hmm. And I love when somebody comes up and they want their picture taken with me or they want an autograph. Who the hell am I? Okay. But I suddenly realized that some people recognize what we did.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's their way of saying thank you in their own way. So we do it.
All right. Well, let me ask you some of these things. You started touching on this the other night on Cheap Pete's show, and he didn't follow up on it. The Battle of the Nature Boys. Yeah. Now, as you were building this, at the time, I thought this was it. This was going to put TWA truly on the map, I thought it was going to be the groundbreaker. I thought it was going to kick down the fucking door.
I had $1,000 worth of tickets sold for a show that was going to cost me $30,000.
That was your pre-sale. You only had 1,000.
There was no pre-sale. I was dying. There was no pre-sale. Okay, none. Now keep in mind, I had the ringsiders that had the season tickets.
Yeah.
But I had $1,000 worth of tickets. So I literally was going to lose $25,000 to $30,000 that day. And keep in mind, when this thing all started, I really thought I was getting Ric Flair. Okay? Because my original whatever was Buddy Landell against Ric Flair. Okay. That was my Battle of the Nature Boys. I never thought Buddy Rogers was going to wrestle. Okay? So here I'm trying to get Flair. I had the commitment from Flair. We had the number. He gave me a number. I said, fine. Okay. But then he signed with either WCW or WWE or somebody.
Right.
So it wasn't going to happen. So my original concept was I was going to have Flair against Buddy Landel. And then I was going to have Buddy Landel go over because Flair wasn't going to stay. I knew that was okay. And Buddy Landel was my champ.
Right.
So, and Flair, God bless Flair, that was what, and Flair would have worked with me. Then
were you going to have Buddy Rogers involved at all in that?
No, that was, and then Buddy Rogers would come into the ring.
Okay.
And challenge Buddy Landel.
All right.
Okay. That was my whole thing. And I was going to have Buddy Rogers as a referee at one of the previous matches. So he was in the building. Now, keep in mind, 2 or 3 shows before that, we had a show in Pine Hill, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It was
which somebody was asking about. Pine Hill Punishment. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a match of Dr. Death Steve Williams against Bam Bam Bigelow.
Okay.
And the guest referee was Buddy Rogers.
Right.
Okay, so I had Buddy Rogers doing the guest referee, and I was going to have him on that card as guest referee, and then he would challenge Buddy Landel. Okay. And Buddy Rogers had said to me, I want to wrestle in the 90s because I want to be a wrestler in 5 decades, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Okay, so I said, fine. Now, when the Flair thing didn't happen, it was going to be Buddy Landel against Buddy Rogers. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, again, I talked this story the other day on the other podcast. What happened was I'm saying to myself, okay, Buddy Rogers agrees. It took him 3 seconds to be in this match. Okay. And I brought it up to him. I didn't expect him to say yes. Okay. And I said, Buddy, here's what I'm thinking. We'll battle the Nature Boys, you against Landel. He says, let's do it. Now, he then starts training 2 to 3 hours a day. Now, again, when you know Buddy back then, Buddy was solid to begin with. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, here's my problem. What am I going to do in this match? I'm going to have Buddy Rogers against Buddy Landel. What the hell am I going to do? Buddy Landel's my champ.
Yeah. I
can't make Buddy Rogers my champ and then retire the belt, although I could.
Right.
Buddy Landel comes up with the finish.
Okay, this is what I wanted to know. Go ahead.
Buddy Landel says, here's what we'll do. We'll do a match. He's an old man. I remember him saying that, so we can't wrestle too long. Tell you what we'll do. We'll go into the ring. We'll jaw with the crowd for about 10 minutes, and then we'll get the match started, and I want him to beat the living shit out of me, and I get pinned 1, 2, 3, and I'm dead in the ring. And I said, well, wait a second. You're my champ.
Yeah.
Understand, the one thing that you learn is the 4 Horsemen had the worst won and loss record of anybody.
Yeah.
Okay? You can lose and win. That's why all these new guys don't get it. They all think they have to be over. They got to be the champ. They got to wear the strap. Buddy Landel said, let him kill me. I'll lay in the ring. Let them take me on a stretcher out of there. But put him over. Okay? And then the comeback would have been, as it turns out, another battle of the Nature Boys, and Landel would win the belt back. Okay? I mean, that's how this whole thing would have played out. Bottom line is, I didn't sell more than $1,000 worth of tickets. And that show also had Benoit scheduled for it.
Yeah.
Okay? I had Dr. Death Steve Williams and Terry Gore. I had a show you would think would have sold the building out. And that's why I just said I'm calling, because now what I want to have happen is dead on the vine. The shows I wanted to put on wasn't going to happen. And I wasn't looking just to put on shows to put on shows. Good, bad, or indifferent. Like I said, I was my own worst enemy.
Who did you tell that you were closing up?
I don't remember telling any. The only person I remember telling, I had to cut off my phone because when I went off the air, everybody was going to try to reach me because I had my phone number. Yeah. I cut off my phone on Friday. Okay? I do not recall telling anybody. Now, Todd Gordon tells the story that I told him on Thursday.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I don't remember telling anybody. Okay? I don't remember telling anybody. Now, there's no reason for Todd to lie. So I could
See, I
have
don't.
done it.
I kind of like, because at that time, and Janetti, you were with me. Like, we got the call. I think you got the call from Bob Artiste or somebody to be at the skating rink.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of almost remember, and I remember like conversations with Bob over the years. Bob saying that he was never told or anything. He had no idea.
I did not tell anybody, and in fact, I didn't even tell Larry Winters.
Yeah.
Okay, and Larry was my. I mean, without Larry, I wouldn't have been anything. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't tell Larry. So when Todd says that I told him, I mean, I don't recall not, but I don't recall telling anybody. Okay. And look, to be honest, I went off the air, and before you know it, Todd had this whole idea. So, and you guys ran with it. Okay. And again,
It was like that. Like it was that night. I'm almost positive it was that night we met at the skating rink.
well, now that I'm out there talking about this, people are telling me that Todd really was trying to sandbag me, and he wanted me out of the business so he could go run with it. And again, I don't accuse Todd of anything. What I do know is he took it to a level that I wanted to take it to and couldn't.
Yeah.
So Todd, God bless him. Okay. And Todd brought in the stars. I mean, he just didn't do it the same way I did.
All right. Well, let me ask you, like, come on, that was not only for guys like me and Janetti and everybody else, but for you yourself, it was very important to you. Hugely important. Like, how were you, honestly? How were you, like, afterwards mentally? Like, you had to be devastated.
I'll tell you what, I was devastated for about a minute. Okay.
Okay.
When I turned my back on the business, I literally turned my back on the business. I went back to work in my career.
And how was that? Like, 1 minute you're doing this, and then next you're back 9 to 5.
Well, guess what? That's why I'm divorced twice. Okay. Okay. I turned my back on it because I didn't watch it on TV, because I didn't follow it. I mean, seriously, God bless Jimmy. Jimmy's on the camera here. I haven't seen Jimmy. We've talked once or twice in the last 30 years. Okay. I turned my back. Okay. Chubby, you didn't. I never saw you wrestle a professional match.
No.
I saw you train like shit, but I never saw you wrestle a professional match. All right. And I remember the time you couldn't do a flip, and Paul Orndorff's trying to get you to do a flip.
And that was, I mean, I was ready to quit the business. I was done. Like, my sister called you, and you were like, no, tell him he's not fucking quitting, to get his ass.
That I remember.
And I went up there, and you had Orndorff and Landell waiting for me.
Well, see, and the funny part with that whole thing, the one thing, look, I knew I was never going to be a wrestler. Okay, physically I couldn't do it. It just wasn't me. But every time I saw you get in the ring and try, you were doing something that I couldn't do.
Right.
Okay. And damn it, I was going to have you succeed. And obviously it did. Okay. And one time, Paul Orndorff came into town the night before the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to go work out in the gym. So I called the gym up to make sure he could go work out. He went to work out. And then I said, come on, you'll come back into the school. And sure enough, I walk in the door with Buddy Landell and Paul Orndorff, and he's in the ring, and he can't flip for shit. And Orndorff decided to take it on as a challenge. Okay.
Orndorff locked up with me, hip tossed me, and I can still picture his face. He looked down at me, he goes, "Know what your problem is, boy? You're too fat." And he got out of the ring. And I was like, wow, all right.
And it's weird. Of all the wrestlers that I worked with, okay, Paul Orndorff, and maybe I'm just blowing smoke, Paul Orndorff was the most well-conditioned, physically put together specimen. I had the Curry Von Erichs. Now, Curry looked great,
yeah,
but no, Orndorff could have killed him.
Yeah.
Okay? Orndorff, if you shook his hand, he hurt. It hurt. Okay? And I'm telling you, Orndorff was the guy of all the people that I had who was the most physically fit.
Yeah.
And he used to work out in that gym. He used to take up he was doing weights, and I couldn't even begin to think about picking those weights up, and he's picking it up like toothpicks.
So, when we talked last year when we did an interview, you had said you were working on a book. What's going on with the book?
Okay, so I'm 90% done the book, but I've been 90% done the book for 5 years. Okay. Now I have two behind the scene guys. Okay, Dan Murphy and Scott Teal.
Okay.
Now they're the ghostwriters, and they're not ghostwriters because we're telling them who they are. Those guys have written more books, more magazine articles than anybody. Okay, Dan Murphy got it started. Scott Teal picked it up. And with Scott Teal right now, if I would go down to Tennessee and go down to Scott for a week and stay in a hotel and spend 8 hours a day doing the book, I could dictate the book. Okay?
Anywhere near Nashville?
Yeah, he's not far. In fact, I know the town. I'll tell you where it's at. And when I used to go down to Nashville, I think I told you my daughter lived in Brentwood for 5 years.
That's the next town over from me.
Yeah, so I know I used to go down there. I haven't been down there for a while. My daughter now lives back up here. But anyway, the long and short of it is, if I would just decide that it was a top priority, I could finish the book. The problem is, to be honest, me and my business partner have a firm now of 16 people.
Okay.
We're busy as hell. We manage over $1 billion. Scary thought that is. Okay. And so we're money managers, and the scary. If I could just find the time, I could get the book done. And the itch is coming back. It's going to get done. In fact, I have a goal, and I'm a very goal-oriented person. Doesn't mean I'm going to succeed. My goal is that by next March, the book is published and out. Now, ask me why I picked next March. It's a year, okay? But if I can finish up the book. Then it's just a matter of these guys taking care of it and getting the pictures in there. And, right now I have pictures that I saved. But as I found out, if I put the word out, I'm looking for pictures. They're coming from all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. So even Mike Lano out of California has pictures. Every time I see him at Cauliflower Club, he keeps telling me, publish them, use my name, which I'll do. So we'll get more pictures. And Jimmy, you got any pictures?
Yeah, I think I've got plenty.
I'm telling you, if I put the word out, people would start looking for the pictures.
Sure.
Okay, and I still watch that video with him bringing Orndorff out. He just looks like such a skinny little kid. It's great.
Spaghetti Genetti.
Spaghetti Genetti.
That's it. There you go.
What about when you got the call from Bruno and you come back and you start getting involved in the business again? Were you a little concerned that maybe somebody might still have a bone to pick with you?
Yeah. I'm still convinced. And every once in a while, look, bottom line is some people lost money. Yeah. Okay. What happened was when I went under, I had a bond with the state of Pennsylvania, $10,000. Okay.
Right.
Now, if you applied to the state of Pennsylvania because you had bought a ticket, you didn't get 100% of your money back. Okay. But you got something. Well, a lot of people just never applied to get the money back. Now, I have no clue if the state gave away all $10,000. They never communicated with me, and quite frankly, I never communicated with them. Okay. I don't know if they still have $9,965 for my bond. Okay. Now, also, when I brought you into the school, you paid us a tuition.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Unfortunately, you lost money. All right. So I know some people, I lost money. Okay. And the way I'm in my own mind, I wound up losing $168,000.
Wow.
Okay. Now, the problem was I had $168,000 to my name. So when I went out, I had nothing left. And so I went back into the business. And just a little bit of a story. When I went off the air, January 18th of 92. The reason I did that was, aside from the fact that this show was going to bomb on the 25th, my daughter was going to be born, as it turned out, on February 5th.
Right.
Okay? So I knew that I was going to become a family man again. My sons were a little bit older. My daughter was being born. I got to make a living again.
Yeah.
And I wasn't making a living with the wrestling. It was feeding my ego.
Yeah.
but it wasn't feeding my bank account.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were a lot of people that I think still have, I don't know, about 30 years later. Okay, but there's some people, I had people who bought season tickets to my 4 big shows that lost money.
Mm.
Okay, so I know people lost money. To this day, I don't have any paperwork that says who did and who didn't. Okay, I turned my business on and when he brought me in, I swear to, and true story again, when Mike Bruno invited me to the show, I wasn't going to go to the show because I hadn't been to a wrestling card in 18 years.
Right.
I decided because he was doing it at the Flyer Skate Zone.
Yeah.
So I went to the Flyer Skate Zone, and I swear to God to you, I'm sitting in my car on the parking lot, and I'm sweating bullets. I don't know what the reaction is going to be when I go in. I don't know if I should even go in. Maybe I should just leave. I decided to go in. I walked in the door, and the first person who met me at the door was Larry Winters. Okay?
And that's your first interaction with Larry in 17?
In 18 years. And okay. Larry says to me, you don't understand how much I've wanted to call you for 18 years, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? I then walk in, and I'm thinking, this is cool. I walk in, who's the second person I see? Sonny. Okay? And Sonny, of course, tells me, because I threw Sonny out of my locker room.
Yeah.
Okay. When she was with Chris Candido.
Yeah.
And anyway, she said to me, I want you to understand, I'm glad I see you, blah, 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 blah. Then I walk in, there's Mike Kalua. Okay. And King, and there's Brandy. And they come up to me, oh my God. And I felt like, oh my God. They missed me after all these years. Now, they could be lying through their typical wrestling bullshit. Okay. But I ate it up. And then there was Glenn Osborne. And then, of course, Buddy Landell. And one thing led to the other. And all of a sudden, it's like I never left. Okay. Now, I was there as a visitor. Okay. And I wasn't going to go in the ring. And I didn't want to get into a match. Well, the second show, they actually got me to get into the ring with all these different wrestlers and get out and go out there and just do my thing. And I got in the ring with Sonny, and we did an interview, and I didn't want to do any of that stuff. But you know this business, you're either in it or you never leave it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm a diabetic, and one thing the doctor told me, my A1C is at 5.1, and technically I'm no longer a diabetic. Except when you're a diabetic, you're always a diabetic. Okay? When you're a wrestling fan, promoter, ring announcer, you're in it for life. It's a life sentence. I still believe that.
You know, I did never, again, I have kind of steered away from wrestling for years because of those reasons. And a guy in the music business came to me with this idea to do this channel. And I was like, oh, it's fucking brilliant. I can't say no. I got to try it. And so then I'm like doing it, and it's like starting to gain some traction. And then I'm like, I've been doing these interviews for 10 years now. Why am I not interviewing all you guys? Because you have a story, and people want to know. So I've been starting to do this, and now it's like the fucking blood's flowing, and I'm like, everybody's getting hyped and happy, and I'm like, Chubby Dudley's more popular now, 30 years later, but more important.
Yeah, now watch this. Jimmy, what made you get into wrestling?
Get into the business itself?
Yeah.
I wanted to work. I wanted to do it.
Okay, but why wrestle? Why wrestle versus manager versus referee versus ring announcer? Why wrestle?
Honestly, I enjoyed the banging around.
Okay.
I enjoyed being pummeled.
He enjoyed the banging.
Well, you know, it's weird. You could ask anybody why they got into the business, and they will all tell you they used to watch it when they were a kid. They idolized one of, like for me, it was Spiros Arion. Okay, he was my guy, and everybody had their guy. Okay. And now today, they all do the high spots. They do. No, man, one thing that you learn about wrestling is in that wrestling match that you're doing, you better be able to tell a story. And sometimes you only have 10 minutes. You better be able to tell a story because what you do in the ring is not special. Anybody can do what you do. It's the story. Okay? And the one thing I used to like about Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk, those guys, tell them 15 minutes, they could write a book in 15 minutes. Okay? They can do the match and make it work. Okay? Ric Flair, to his credit, he used to do Broadway's an hour every night.
Yeah.
Okay? And it was the same moves. He did the same freaking moves every time he did a match. But he knew how to space it out and make it work.
Yeah.
Okay? And the one thing I told the story on the podcast last night, Don Morocco. I had Don Morocco on one of my first shows. I had him against Bob Orton. Okay? And I was talking to Morocco in the back. And one of the things Morocco told me was that he changed from babyface to heel about every 6 weeks. And he would change territory. So he'd come to a territory. The first time he'd be a main eventer. But he would come in. The second match was a pin counts anywhere in the building match. The third one, eventually they had a title match. And then he had a loser leave town match. And he would lose. And then he would take a week or two off. And then he'd come and he would show up as a babyface. And he'd do a babyface for 6 weeks and that'd be a heel. And he claimed that extended his life because he never got stale. Okay? Well, Ric Flair was a heel every time he went out to wrestle. So you get all these different opinions as to how and what makes it work. Okay? And what's amazing is you don't have to be a muscle-bound freak to succeed. Jimmy Jannetty can prove that. Okay? Chubby, you can prove that. All right? I had guys in my card. In fact, Randy will remember. There was a guy by the name of He-Man Lewis. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Okay. This guy was a Lex Luger Jr.
Okay. I remember the name. I don't remember him.
Yeah. This guy was put together. I had him wrestle Jewel Strongbow in one of the worst matches ever in the history of man. Okay. But he looked the part. And if he could have wrestled, I could have done something with him. I only had him on that one show. He was horrible.
Couldn't wrestle his way out of a wet paper bag.
Okay, now I don't know if he's even if he's still around or if he's watching this. Okay, you don't have to be muscle. Mondo Clean, remember Mondo?
Okay, we have a question. Person's been asking me for a few days to ask you this about Mondo Clean. At some point, would you mind retelling the story of how Mondo Clean ended up on a tri-state show and wto he replace?
Okay, he didn't replace anybody. If you remember, I see the question just popped up.
Yeah.
We were going to do a tag match, and it wound up becoming a 6-man tag. Okay, and we brought Mondo in. Now, Mondo was out of New York. Okay,
right.
And the one thing, we had a bunch of people with John Arezzi who came down, who would come to my shows from New York. So I figured I'll put him on the card. And Mondo looked like a wrestler, whatever the hell that means. Okay?
He had a great look to him.
Yeah, he was horrible.
Yeah.
Okay? But he stuck around the business for a long time. But that's how he was put onto the show because I wanted to get 6 men. I wanted to get some more guys on the card that sold me some tickets. Okay? I remember we did at the Civic Center where we had a Last Blood Battle Royal.
Oh, yeah.
And we had 20 guys, and only one guy didn't bleed. Okay? So all you guys that were in the show had to bleed. Okay? Well, when you put who did I put into the Battle Royal? Well, I had guys that sold me tickets.
Yeah.
Okay? And some of those guys if I saw them on the street, I wouldn't know who they are. Okay, remember Mr. Anthony?
Yes.
Okay, I don't even know if he's still in the business or where he's at. He sold me tickets. Rockin' Rebel, and I know you don't like mentioning his name, sold me tickets.
He was good for that. I'll tell you what, the only shows I made money on, believe it or not, and it's kind of a scumbag thing, but surprise, surprise from Rebel, we did a benefit, the most money I made as a promoter. We did a benefit for his nephew that had cancer and had part of his arm removed. and we did it at my old high school in Upper Darby, and me, him, and Frank Cody, who was my business partner, we walked away, I think, with each $500 in our pocket. We should have gave that money to that fucking kid.
Yeah.
But he was like, no. Take the money. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
see, that's a typical wrestling story.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's scary because I think back not to the main eventers, the guys that the Terry Funks, and because they all, Kevin Sullivan would say to me, "How long you want?" And they knew what they had to do. Okay. The DC Drakes, the Larry Winners, the Johnny Hotbodies, the Tony Stetsons, as you talk about those four. Give me the Glenn Osbornes. Give me the Sandmans. Give me the J.T. Smiths. Give me the Jimmy Janettis. You know what? Those shows should sell tickets.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, back in the day, my thought process was I had to mix it with the big guys. Okay. Dennis Caruso didn't do that. He had Boy Gone Bad as his main eventer. Okay. And he'd sell 125 tickets in Williamstown, New Jersey, and he made money.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, because actually I asked this question, I think, to Johnny and Tony, because they were both originally Monster Factory guys. What was there like a heat between you and Larry and you and Dennis? Because I could have swore it was kind of like you couldn't work if we worked for Joel, you couldn't work for Larry or Dennis.
No, I'll tell you what it was, and this becomes. And again, Dennis Caruso's passed away, so and Larry Sharp has passed away, so it's tough. You're hearing one side of the story.
Sure.
Dennis Caruso and I never had heat, ever. In fact, if you see my shows, Dennis is sitting at the table. Okay, when you look at my Temple shows, he's sitting at the table.
Okay.
All right. So I never had heat. What I did tell him was, if my guys are working on your card, I want to control what happens in that match. I don't want my guys to go over to your show and you fucking bury them.
Right.
Okay. So I took, and I don't even know if I had the right to do it. If you were a TWA guy and you were going to work on somebody else's show, it was a TWA match. Okay. Now, I had issues with Larry Winters and DC Drake because they were working independents all over the place. Okay. And all I said to Larry Winters is, whatever you do, don't do what you do for me at their show.
Yeah.
Because we're special. Okay. Now, again, good.
And that's why they're getting booked, because that's what people wanted them to do.
Well, and here's what I told the guys, and Jimmy was probably heard the conversation with Larry and DC. I said to those guys, you're on every one of my shows. If I book a show, if you can't make it, you can't make it. You're on my card. I'll figure out something. I did the same thing with Buddy Landell. I did the same thing with Cactus Jack. I did the same thing with Bam Bam Bigelow. Okay, they were on my every show I have. If you can make the date. Buddy Landell sometimes was working down south. He couldn't make it. Bam Bam Bigelow would go to Japan a lot, and sometimes they couldn't get him. Yeah. But they were on the card no matter what. Now, the guys like Jimmy Janetti, Glenn Osborne, every time I had a show, they were there somehow or another.
Yeah.
Okay. And the guys that came out of the school, that was part of the deal. You're going to be booked. Now, whether I use you in single, doubles, whatever, if it was a cage match, whatever. The point is, I would use the guys. So the local guys, man, I could do any. They wanted. I'm telling you, the Jimmy Janettis come to me and say, "I got an idea." Okay. Now, the one thing you learn about the Austin Idols and the Buddy Landells is they believe that when you lose a match, you go over.
Yeah.
Okay. And the science of what those guys did, they didn't care if they won or lost. Manny Fernandez. I told the story last night. I had 3 shows in 3 different areas: Westchester, Trenton, New Jersey, something like that. Yeah. And I had the main event was Wahoo McDaniel against Manny Fernandez.
Okay.
And they beat the living shit out of each other. I'm talking stiff. Those guys don't know how to pull. They did Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and how they did it. And Jimmy, I bet you was at those shows. Yeah. Okay. How they did that. And I'm watching, and I kind of know the business a little bit. Those guys were as stiff as anything I've ever seen 3 nights in a row. Okay, it was unbelievable. I watched that. It's scary. So, and they came up and they said to me, here, one night I'll put Wahoo over, the next night I'll do Manny, and then we'll do a screw up finish. That's what they did. I didn't have to tell these guys what to do. They knew they were professionals. They knew what they had to do.
Exactly. How about, you mentioned this show earlier, the Pine Hill Punishment Show. Janetti, correct me if I'm wrong. Was that the show where it was you and Rebel against the Blackhearts?
Yes.
Yes.
And again, what I had that match on tape from Janetti. He had the whole show tape. I used to watch that match over and over. They beat the living piss out of poor Janetti.
Yep. And the kicker was I had to fly 3 people in for that match.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's the kind. The matches were great.
Yeah.
The matches were great, except they were expensive as hell.
Mm-hmm.
It sometimes cost me more to fly them than what I was paying them.
Sure.
And it was funny because the deal with them was I gave Luna the money and she had to split it up. Think about that one.
Oh boy. Now that show also, was that the show that Larry cut his cast off?
No, I don't think so. No. I think he cut his cast. If I'm not mistaken, it was one of the Civic Center shows.
No.
Was it one of the bar shows?
No, I think it was that. It was a show I was not at, and I think it was that one.
I don't remember him.
I have no. You want to something?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
You know what? The guy, Jeremy, that asked the question, he was there. If he remembers, that would be awesome if he could say.
Well, and it's funny. You mentioned here, I see the Cornetti here, Eddie Gilbert against Kevin Sullivan. Here we are at Pine Hill, and it was a gym.
Mm-hmm.
And they went up into the seats. They would roll down the seats. They went all over the building. Okay? I swear to this day, I never said to Eddie Gilbert and Kevin the finish. I never said what I need. I never said what I want. They knew when I put those 2 guys together, brawl it. Okay? And that's why the name of my book is We Wrestled, We Brawled, We Tried It All. Okay? I'm telling you, the brawling that we did made and gave us a reputation. And one of the things I always talked about, and I used to say this at our meetings in my apartment, I used to say that the goal of the TWA is that everybody in the building at some point has a front row seat. That was so. When
you made it happen.
Now, I didn't have to tell you. Once I told you that, you guys knew what you had to do. And the one thing, and again, hindsight's always 20/20, the professionals, the guys that you and I would call the Terry Funks, the Kevin Sullivans, the Bam Bam Bigelows, Jerry Lawlers, they knew what they had to do. Yeah. I didn't. When Buddy Landell wrestled Austin Idol all over the Civic Center building, I didn't tell them boo. They knew. Who the hell wants to watch a wrestling match with those 2 guys in the ring?
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember we did one show at the Civic at Temple University where Austin Idol was exhausted. Okay. And so he was against Paul Orndorff. And they did an arm wrestling match for 10 minutes. Because Austin Idol didn't want to wrestle. He was exhausted. Okay. And he just did that. So, guys know what they can do, what they don't do. And, I hate to say this, but with the main eventers, they realize that their job is over when the matches start. Because their job was to help you sell tickets.
Yeah.
What they do in the ring doesn't mean shit, except what happened with us is they got to know that they had to go do certain things in the ring. Okay? But the reality is that when you have a main event of Abdul the Butcher versus the Sheik, they know what they have to do.
Yeah, of course.
Okay? And those guys were in the ring for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I mean, it's just, and the problem is we had, and I think Jimmy will actually validate this. When we first started, the main eventers for me were Larry Winters, DC Drake, Tony Stetson, and Johnny Hotbody. They were.
Absolutely.
They were the main eventers to wrestling fans. They didn't sell me any tickets until the snowball started to start.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rest
Speaking of Larry, there's a question here. What was the deal Larry had with the NWA in Baltimore? He wrestled their Baltimore shows a lot, and sometimes he won.
Well, it was interesting. Larry had a good reputation that he was a good worker. Okay. He had done television against Larry Zbyszko for the AWA. He had done some TV, and Gary Juster was the promoter in Baltimore.
Okay. I remember that name.
And Larry actually knew Gary, and he just put him over.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that unless there was some secret deal that I wasn't aware of, but that was it.
Hey, here's a name from the past. Who was Johnny O in the TWA?
Good question. In fact, is he still around? I don't know.
The last time I remember, he was doing security for ECW.
Yes,
Okay.
actually, Glenn. I asked Glenn when I did Glenn's interview, and Glenn said Johnny came up to him at his show he was doing security at.
Okay. Well, Johnny O is somebody we'll find if we're going to do a TWA show. Okay. And I remember and again, it wasn't me. I think it was Larry. Larry made him up just Johnny O to be Glenn Osborne's brother.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know why they called him Johnny O versus Johnny Osborne.
Yeah.
Okay. But I was just a promoter. I wasn't the booker. And even like when we had Sandman, okay, Larry Winters used to tell the story that he was driving down I-95 and there was a billboard because somebody was selling mattresses by the name of Mr. Sandman. So he came to the wrestling school that night and told him, "You're going to be Sandman." Okay? and he made him a beach bum. Now, again, that's a misuse of talent because now when he goes over to ECW, they made him into the free, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah. They made him into himself.
Whatever.
I'll
I'll go over and talk about Steve Austin. You'll love this story. Okay. I'm sitting in my office at home during the TWA days, and I have coming on the card Chris Adams and Kevin Von Erich on a tag match. Okay. And I get a phone call, and the guy I answer the phone, and he says to me, typical wrestling talk, "Hey, brother." Okay. I said, "Okay, who is this?" "Well, I don't want to tell you who I am, but I'd love to work for you." And I said, "Okay, I just don't think of people." He says, "I'll work for nothing." I said, "Well, who are you?" He said, "Steve." I go under the name of Stunning Steve Austin. He called me for work up here in Philadelphia. Well, the problem is it would have cost me $500 to fly him here, and he wasn't going to sell me a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay, and Chris, he was being trained by Chris Adams. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when Chris was on the card, he said, "I'll come up with Chris." Well, Chris, I was flying in.
Right.
Okay, so here Steve Austin called me for work, and I didn't take him. That's not too good.
What was Todd Gordon like in person?
Todd was a nice guy. Mm-hmm. Todd was very self-centered. Todd looked out for Todd. But you want to know something? Joel Goodhart looked out for Joel Goodhart.
Yeah.
Okay. Todd, when I first hooked up with Todd called me up because he heard the radio show. Okay. And he called me, and one of the things he asked me is, "Are you looking for advertisers on a radio show?" So I went to Todd Carver W. Reed. Mm-hmm. I met with him. I told him and he signed up, and don't ask me I forget how much it was. He signed up to be an advertiser. And then one time he actually wanted to have Missy Hyatt at his store. Mm-hmm. So I got Missy, and I don't know whatever. I didn't get paid on that stuff, whatever the arrangement was. She went to the store. So Todd was an advertiser. Okay. Then when I was doing the shows at Temple, I had a problem. And Temple University was asking me for insurance for the shows, which was going to cost me a fortune. Okay. And I happened to mention it to Todd, and Todd came up with the idea, let's do the shows for Variety Club. And if you're doing the shows for Variety Club, we can use the Variety Club insurance for your umbrella. So I committed and I recalled the number. I committed to giving them $5,000, but I would be able to use their insurance for my 4 big shows. Okay, $5,000 was still a steal. Then I went on to the Variety Club Telethon because Todd got me some exposure on that.
Okay.
Right? And I went live on there. One time we actually took some of the NWA wrestlers over to Children's Hospital. And that was also, and then I got elected to the board of directors of Variety Club. What the hell was I doing on the board of directors of Variety Club? Well, it's because of Todd's connection. So no, Todd was a nice guy. To this day, if I see Todd, we shake hands, we're friends. And like I said, I've said this before, Todd went to a different level than I was able to bring. So to that, he gets credit. Now, like I said, I haven't read his book, and I don't know if he badmouths me in the book or whatever. I'm not going to badmouth him. We both accomplished, I think, something that's still memorable.
What since you didn't watch like ECW and all, did you ever hear that they had early on? I think it was right around the time they turned Extreme or whatever. They had 2 guys. Yeah. They had a Dino Sendoff and a Joel Hartgood.
Yeah, and to this day, I heard about it a couple years ago.
Okay.
Who was it?
So Dave Cruz, who became Cujo, was I think Dino Sendoff. Okay. Joel Hartgood, I don't know who he was.
Okay, and when I was doing management for ECWA, I saw Cujo. Cujo was on some of those cards. Yeah, okay, and he had told me that, but I didn't know who the heck Trogdor was, and to this day, don't know.
Now, I took such offense to that, and that was right around the time I started promoting shows. We were gonna come up with somebody and put them on the shows as Carver W. Greed.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what now to show you how sick I am. Okay. And to be honest, I've never told this to Todd. And in fact, if Todd watches this, he'll be surprised. Back in the day, and I'm done 5 years ago, I thought if I ever wanted to start a promotion again, okay, I would start up a promotion of Go-Go Wrestling. Okay. And the Go-Go was Goodhart and Gordon. Okay.
Go-Go Wrestling.
Go-Go Wrestling, Goodhart and Gordon. Okay. Or he would say Gordon and Goodhart. Okay. But that would be Go-Go Wrestling. Okay. Now, needless to say, fortunately, I never did that. Okay. And I wouldn't know if Todd would even want to do it again.
But it sounds like you'd fucking be all in.
No, I'm telling you right now to do a TWA card because I think it's historical. Okay. And I would not do a TWA monthly card. And I just think that we need to establish there was a pre-ECW. And damn it, I want to get the 2300 Arena. I want to get all the guys to find the Johnny O's of the world. And to be honest, Todd Gordon was one of my ring announcers. I would invite him. I don't know if he'd come. I would invite him. Okay. I want the Rob Feinsteins of the world. I want the Jimmy Genettis of the world. Part of me says the book has to be closed on what we did. And, whether you get that banner raised or not, and I think it's a great idea, whether that banner ever gets raised or not, guess what? The people who know the banner should be up.
Oh, yeah. It's true. Let's see. Referee Phil Sly. Joel managed me. Best time of my referee career.
There you go. Well, and Phil Sly's another one. There's a guy, there's a lot of people that were fans of what we did. Yeah. Who are now in the business peripherally, not in the business peripherally. I mean, it's so. A couple years ago, I was elected to the ECWA Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. Okay, and Steve Carino was another one who was entered into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And Steve Carino tells the story about how he got involved in wrestling. And the TWA did a show at Norristown Fort. It was an outside show. And sure enough, Tony Stetson wrestled Johnny Hotbody, and Tony Stetson was thrown out of the ring and stepped on Steve Carino's toe. He was there with his mother.
That's
Okay.
funny.
And Steve Carino realized right then and there he wanted to be a wrestler. I hear stories like that crap all the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, here's probably the best comment of the night.
Yeah.
From referee Joe Zanoli, Mike Bruno sucks.
Well, whether, I will tell you, me personally, he doesn't suck. Okay. Mike, and I will, full disclosure, Mike is also a client. Okay. Mike Bruno, Joe Zanoli, John Finnegan, Jim Molyneux, Jimmy Giannetti, Glenn Osborne. Come on. We all made this thing work.
Yeah.
And everybody, when Joe Zanoli was a referee for me, and in fact, he made a comment a little bit before that he refereed the Buddy Landell Austin Idol match at the Civic Center. And I'm telling you, Joe Zanoli lost 20 pounds just racing after those guys. Okay? And you can watch the video. I mean, Joe Zanoli got his ass kicked by Abdul the Butcher. I mean, but Joe Zanoli, he was a ringside photographer.
Yeah.
So was Paulie Dangerously. Okay? So was Jim Cornette. Okay? And those guys, they all worked for me. And it's funny because I think back to the managers that we had. Oh my God. Okay, we had the cream of the crop. We did. And our referees were great. I mean, we had between Zanoli, John Finnegan, and Jim Molyneux. Okay, and we had Rich Engling for a couple of our matches at Temple. We had great referees, and they're all still in the business. 32 years later.
In my opinion, they're legends. They're
32 years later, they're still working.
Yeah. Joe also says Joel introduced Philly wrestling fans outside WWF NWA.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's scary. Look, I hated the WWF. I hated them on the radio. I used to rip them on television whenever I got the little TV spot.
You were shooting before ECW was.
Thank you. Okay. The NWA was great. Okay. The NWA, when they came to Philly, they gave a brand of wrestling that they had not seen. Yeah. What happened was once people saw the NWA, suddenly the TWA made sense. Okay. Now, they always tell you in wrestling, every adult brings 2 kids. You want to sell tickets, get kids there, and you'll sell 3 tickets for every 1 ticket sold.
Right.
I didn't want kids. I wanted you to leave kids at home because we were too violent. Now, that hurt me business-wise. Okay? But you want to know something? When people came to my matches, I do believe this. When they left, they're saying to the people that they went with, that's real. Because if you in the Pennsylvania Hall that we were at, if Glenn Osborne decided to slap Jimmy Giannetti, they heard that in the last row. Okay? And you can't pull that. Because if you do it, the last row sees it. Okay? The one thing I loved about Jerry Lawler, he could throw a punch and never hit you.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan, you'd never know it. Okay? The Memphis style wrestling, they used to throw punches. One of the matches that I never had, I advertised it, it fell through. I wanted Jeff Jarrett against Eric Embry. Okay? That match is a slap fest. If you've ever seen that match in Memphis, those guys, God bless them. Okay? And I wanted that match. I couldn't get it, just never happened. And to this day, I see Jeff Jarrett when he does the Icons. And we talk about that all the time because he wanted to do that match in Philly. And, and just to finish what I'm saying there, that match wouldn't sell me a single ticket. But they wanted to do the match in Philly because they knew with that comes the magazines and everything else that comes along with it.
Referee Phil Sly, he says for the TWA show, you need to do a Crybaby Waldo Memorial Battle Royal.
No question.
It should be Waldo / CN Red, who we just lost a few months back.
Yeah, and CN, I'll tell you, he went through hell.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He went through an absolute hell. Crybaby Waldo, I'll never forget. We couldn't figure out a gimmick for him. Okay, Larry Winters came up with Crybaby Waldo. Okay, and he told him, go get a pink outfit and a big baby bottle.
I remember he was so happy when he got that baby. I remember at the meeting when he was talking about when he got the baby bottle, he was so happy.
Yeah, he couldn't find it, and I don't remember who got it for him. But Crybaby Waldo, I saw him. The ECWA had a card in South Philadelphia where the Von Erichs were on the card. It was all the
I was there. Me, you, and Waldo sat there the whole time. The three of us just breaking balls like old times. It was so.
And that was the last time I saw Crybaby.
Me too.
Just a great guy. Great guy.
Yeah.
But seeing Red's another one. He went through hell. And Larry Winters. I mean, we lost a lot of people.
Shame. Nick Infanti says TWA 1990 to 91 had an interesting roster of wrestlers.
Oh, no question. Local as well as the national.
Mm.
Okay. And again, another national. I had Owen Hart. Okay. And
as a matter of fact, at the Goodhart Delivers shows with Abby and the Sheik, I was on the stage with Owen Hart and Medusa as that match was happening, and they were coming up the ramp, and we were just like, oh, hell no. And we ran for our lives.
I'm telling you, I think back the one time that Abby attacked me, and it's on YouTube video. Okay. It was one of the matches. And even though I was the good guy announcer, Abby, he had to attack me. Okay. Yeah. So I'm walking up the aisle, and Abby's walking up the aisle, coming toward me. And Abby just says, get down. So he gives me a kick. Okay. I didn't feel a thing. I get down on the ground. He stomps on me, and everybody's cheering. Everybody's glad that Goodhart got his ass kicked. What was amazing is, again, I didn't feel a thing. Okay. And again, true story. I go forward to 2014, something like that. And there's a wrestler at the ECWA that used to go under the name of Napalm Bomb. Okay. And he's out of Baltimore. And this guy was, Jimmy's not in his head, 6'2", 6'3", solid as a rock. Okay. And I was his manager. Okay. Well, I'm in the corner outside the ring, and he's wrestling in the middle of the corner, and his opponent, who I forget who it was, throws him into the corner. And when he throws him in the corner, he's supposed to knock me off the ring rope. He goes into me, something fierce, like a truck hit me. I fly off the ring rope, smack onto the floor. Fortunately, I kind of knew what I was doing. But when I did it, my glasses flew.
Uh-oh.
The match is in Delaware. And I'm thinking, if the glasses break, I got to drive without my glasses 60 miles home. One of the wrestling fans caught the glasses. Okay. And the referees obviously come out and drag me into the back. Okay. He hit me so hard, I felt that for about 3 weeks. Every morning when I woke up, I was stiff. I was ridiculous. Okay. So I got attacked by Abdullah, didn't feel a thing. I get bumped by Napalm Bomb and felt it for 3 weeks.
All right. Jeremy says, I'm just going to say it. I didn't like the fucking 2009 TWA. I went to one show. It was so. I wasn't interested. It was nothing like the great TWA of the 90s.
Well, that's why I say if I'm going to do another show, it's either going to be done the way I want it done, or I'm not going to be involved. I mean, these guys don't need me if they don't want me. But if I'm involved, we're doing it my style.
You know what? It's funny because when Todd took over and started ECW, and I've said this on every show, I thought the product sucked. I thought it was horrible. And it kind of reminded me of when, no offense to Bruno if you're watching, Mike, I love you, but the TWA product sucked that he was trying to put out there. It was nothing to do with the TWA of old. It didn't work.
It didn't work. And then, of course, he buried it. I love Mike Bruno too, but he buried it. Okay, if I'm telling you, if we're going to do a TWA show, unfortunately, I don't like to do things on the cheap. I'm not going to do it in a high school gymnasium that you have to travel 60 miles to, and nobody has a bus to get there. If I'm going to do it, I would do if everybody knows where the 2300 arena is, I would do it there.
The future home of a banner that we're going to hang up there.
Okay. What's that say here?
I'll climb the ladder and hang it myself if I have to.
Good. This Rick Del Santo, I'm not sure who he is, interviewed Ron Shaw, so there might be a way to get a hold of Ron.
I think, let me write that name down, because as a matter of fact, I think Rick Del Santo interviewed me too.
Okay.
As far as the last time that I remember, Ron Shaw has a website.
Really?
Yeah. And he's living down here in Florida. I think he's in Naples. But Ron Shaw has a website. I went to it and I looked at it, and it's just a regular website. It's nothing major, but yeah, I'll have to think it. I think it was just ronshaw.com.
I'm going to check it out because I also know Ron's last name, which is a Polish name, and I'm going to check it out. I'm telling you, if this is starting to gather some momentum, if I'm going to put this show together, I'm bringing Janetti up from Florida. We'll find Ron Shaw. JT Smith, I know, was in Virginia, although it seems like everybody's having trouble finding him. We're going to. Glenn Osborne is still up this way. We're going to find people.
I'll tell you what, Joel, when you get a chance, text me or send me over the number you have for JT, and I'll compare it with the other two numbers. I'm off from work tomorrow. I'm just going to call these fucking numbers.
Well, I'll tell you what. I called the number that I had, and I got a voicemail that was not JT.
Okay.
Then I also texted him, and I said, if this is JT, but he hasn't replied.
Same.
And like I said, I saw him at one of the icons, and he gave me the number. So this is not from a third party. He actually gave it to me. Okay. And I'll just tell you, the last numbers I have ends in 4231. I just looked at it. You'll check to see if it's the number.
I got to write because I got to search through messages. 4231.
31. The last four numbers I got, and again, no response. But that was a number from him.
Let me see here. All right, Phil says, I always wondered, when you ran shows back then, who were some of the wrestlers you wanted to book but could never seem to agree to work with? Well,
Ric Flair was one. We just couldn't get that done. I'm trying to think. There were – no, actually, I'm thinking – the more I'm thinking, I don't know that there was anybody who said, I'm not working for you. Okay? Now, I will tell you, when I had Curry Von Erich, he did not want to come up. He just didn't like leaving Texas. Okay? And as I told the story on the podcast last night, I wanted Curry so bad that I got Jerry Lawler involved. All right? Now, as it turned out, I had them booked at a Temple University match, which was always an afternoon show, because you just couldn't run shows at Temple University at night.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry Lawler wrestled Curry Von Erich at the Sportatorium in Dallas on a Friday night.
Okay.
They had the first flight out Saturday morning to Philly. Now, you had a time difference, so they landed in Philly at about 12:30. Okay? The show started at 1 o'clock, but I didn't have them calling on until 2:30 or so. Curry Von Erich lands in Philly. Now, think about this one. He wrestles Jerry Lawler. They get to sleep for about 3 hours. He gets to the airport. I paid Jerry Lawler extra to make sure that Curry got on the plane. Okay? It's amazing. Wrestlers will do anything for an extra $100. Okay?
I was going to say, how much extra did you give him? 1, 2, 300?
One. Curry and Jerry, I couldn't get them to sit together. They wrestled. I kayfabed it. They were on the same plane, but they're different in the back. So now he gets off the plane. My ex-brother, at that time my brother-in-law, but my ex-brother-in-law picks him up at the airport. And Curry gets in the plane, gets in the car and says, I want to get Pat steaks. So my brother-in-law was stuck. We didn't have cell phones. He couldn't call me. He decides to take Curry. And keep in mind, Curry is so goddamn big, and Scott's got a little car. Curry was sitting in the back seat. They get to Pat Steaks, and he gets 2 steaks, not 1, 2.
I can imagine.
Then they get to Temple University while the matches are on. Okay, and I get a signal. I'm not sure who it was that told me that Curry showed up. So I go in the back, and I had never met Curry. He just kept talking. So I introduced Curry to myself, all that kind of stuff. Curry then says to me, What city am I in?
I was.
Okay. Then he gets to the ring and he says to the ring announcer, what city am I in? And then he says, okay, Philadelphia, something along those lines. So think about this. Curry Von Erich was in Dallas, Texas, went to the airport, flew 5 hours to Philadelphia, went to Pat Steaks, comes to Temple University and doesn't know what city he's in. He was as wasted as it could. But now the best part of that whole story, typical Jerry Lawler, typical TWA. Jerry says to me, can I do something different? I said, sure. He says, do you mind if I throw fire? I said, no, I don't think Philadelphia's ever seen that wrestler. So Jerry Lawler threw fire and Curry Von Erich to end the match. Okay? Now, I don't know that anybody ever threw fire since or before. Okay? Now, I don't know if ECW did any of that stuff. I've never watched any of their matches. But Jerry Lawler decided to throw fire on Curry Von Erich, so Jerry lost. Curry Von Erich didn't win the belt, but he won. That's not saying professionals know they can lose the match and they still win. Okay? And Jerry Lawler knew he was on every one of my cards. Curry wasn't coming back.
Santa Kringle. TWA would have lasted longer, had a better run than ECW.
They're right.
Joel
They're right.
Goodhart.
Except the difference is with ECW, the history of ECW between Eddie Gilbert taking over and Paulie Dangerously taking over. If Todd Gordon hadn't given it up, it would have done better. Okay, I just think from what I'm hearing now, I was creative. I did what I did, but as you get bigger, obviously people start dipping in, and I'm not sure how the loss of control was there and what made ECW go down the tubes. I do know one thing: if I had the talent that I had and they stayed with me, I guess what? I didn't have to worry about a friggin' thing, because if I put Glenn Osborne against Jimmy Jannetty, I would have to give him anything more than the time. That's it. They know what they got to do. I had that with Larry Winters and Johnny Hotbody. I had it with Tony Stetson, and I'm telling you, and Johnny, I didn't have to do anything. These, if you had professionals, they understood how to get, and they would be on every card. So if you lost a match, it's not like I'm burying you. So if you do it the right way, like I said, the Four Horsemen have the worst one-loss record of anybody in wrestling.
Now, but like, as I'm thinking about this, like, you said $168,000 you lost in TWA.
Yep.
You said, Todd lost money in his part of ECW. We know Paul lost money in ECW.
We also know Ted Turner lost money.
Ted Turner lost money.
You can't make money in wrestling unless you're Vince.
So how do you fucking make money in it? Why would you? You're a financial guy. Why would you want to go back into this?
No, because first of all, if I went back, it would be one show. Okay.
Okay.
If I ever got back into the problem is the wrestling fan that you want to satisfy. Keep in mind, you're in the business to satisfy the fan. Okay. Unfortunately, the fans want to see names. Okay. What WWF, everybody's talking about The Rock. Okay. The Rock doesn't give a shit about one wrestling fan, but he'll draw 20,000 people because it's The Rock.
Yeah.
Okay. People will buy into Steve Austin. They buy into the personality. The one thing Vince did, look, I didn't like Vince, but the one thing Vince learned, okay, I swear to God, NASCAR and wrestling work together. Okay. If you're a NASCAR fan, generally speaking, you're a Jeff Gordon fan, you're a Dan Earnhardt fan, you're a fan. Okay. With wrestling, you're a Hulk Hogan fan, you're a Roddy Piper fan. Very few people are wrestling fans, because the wrestling fan would never go to the WWF. They prove that all the time. Okay? On the other hand, if you have a wrestling card and the wrestling card wasn't Sergeant Slaughter against Nikolai Volkov, and it was just the two guys wrestling, they wouldn't sell a single ticket. But it was the storyline. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't even know if I want to say this out loud. I'd rather say I'm gonna save my idea for off air.
Okay.
Pitch, because I think there's a different spin to do a one-off that would be totally different.
Okay.
And
hey, I'm open to anything.
Okay.
And in fact, I'm still not convinced I'm going to do it. Okay. But I'll tell you, and I said this yesterday. If I have a main event and it's local talent,
mm-hmm.
I'm having Breaker Morant versus Chris Wilde. Okay? Those two guys, if I started over again, were my DC Drake and Larry Winters.
Yeah.
And I managed Chris for a little bit. That was it is what it is. Breaker against Chris would do anything. They did stuff I wasn't even thinking of having done. Okay? And those two guys would sell our main event anywhere, except they don't necessarily have the names to do it.
Yeah.
Okay? But I'm telling you, those two guys, that would be I'm telling you, they're my main event. Now, I'm going to have Chris Wilde and Breaker Morant. I'm going to have Tony Stetson and Johnny Hotbody in their corners. Not to get involved in the match. I don't need them to get physical. They can tease the hell out of it.
Sure.
Okay. The one thing I talked about yesterday, when Johnny Hotbody and Tony, and Jimmy could actually talk about this one. Tony Stetson against Johnny Hotbody. Everybody knew that these guys hated each other. Mm-hmm. South Philadelphia knew they hated each other. They didn't.
They loved each other.
They worked it. They worked it. And these guys, anywhere that they went, the whole South Philadelphia thought that they hated each other. Mm-hmm. And they didn't. Johnny will tell you.
Yeah.
They worked it.
All right. If Joel joined ECW in 1992, would he have helped co-promote ECW with Todd?
Sure, that's the go-go. That's what I was talking about. Todd, if Todd would have stayed in the business, and if I would have stayed in the business, hindsight, it is what it is. Todd and I could do. I didn't dislike Todd.
Okay, let me ask this: do you think, in a perfect world, that go-go would actually come together and happen? Yeah. Do you think the egos of Joel and Todd could actually work together? Because let's face it.
Yeah. The answer,
come on.
Yeah. The answer is yes. But here's what I would have done differently. Okay. I would have had Todd handle the business end of it. Okay. Because I certainly did not do it well. I mean, it didn't do it well. Could it have existed?
And he had said that. He said Joel was a wrestling guy. He was not a business guy.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to kid about it. On the other hand, Todd was a business guy that didn't belong in wrestling. Yeah. Okay. Now, from what I understand, Todd ran some great angles. Todd was a good booker. Guess what? The one thing I learned, I never was a booker. Larry Winters was my booker. I didn't handle the dressing room. I came up with some of the angles and some of the fancy matches, and I said to Larry, get it done. Okay? I don't believe a promoter should be a booker and vice versa. I still don't believe that. Todd tried to do both. Okay? And to me, I was a great promoter. Business-wise, I sucked, but I was a great promoter.
Right.
Okay? But I could never be a booker. I wasn't one of the boys. All right? I never perceived that. I would come up with some angles. I went to Larry and I said, can we do this? Can we do that? The dog pound was Larry's idea. Okay? Right. And I said to last night when the Blackhearts won the belts, I did not know that was happening.
Yeah.
I was the promoter of the card. I was the guy writing the checks. Larry didn't even tell me what the finish was. Okay, but I trusted him.
Stevie Wonderful will be an amazing episode. Hopefully, we're going to have that real soon.
He sucked as a disc jockey, but I'll tell you, he had ideas. He had ideas. He was in the printing business. We got shirts done and all that kind of stuff. Stevie was great. I haven't talked to Stevie in 32 years.
Let's see. Mr. Goodhart, thank you for everything you have done for the business we love.
You're very welcome. Glad to do it.
And this is the absolute truth. And the people that know. Without TWA, there would never be an ECW.
Nope, no, there never would have been. Never would have been. In fact, and again, we had an ECW because I failed. If I didn't fail, we would have never had an ECW. Okay, so I mean, I accept my shortcomings. Okay, but I also accept the fact that I was a trailblazer. Okay, and to this, the trail's still being blazed.
So you like when you closed up that morning, and then that night we're getting together at the Springfield skating rink to find out that Todd is going to restart. Did you have any idea that was going on?
Zero. I had no clue.
When did you find out that?
2009.
Stop it.
I'm telling you. I swear to God to you. I knew nothing. I mean, I obviously knew that ECW was created because it was on television. Never watched a minute of it. Didn't know Todd was involved versus Paulie Dangerously versus Eddie Gilbert. Nothing. I hear stories about it now.
Wow.
Okay, but no, I knew nothing about that at all.
Huh. All right, Buddy Landell versus Buddy Rogers, supposed to happen January 25th, 1992. That show in Philly, along with the January 24th, 92 show in Newcastle, Delaware. Oh,
yeah, we were going to have a show the night before. All right, one of the things that I was trying to do, because I was getting these guys, Benoit, whatever, to fly in.
Yeah, do double shot.
In order to spread the money out a little bit, I had to do 2 shows. And the show in Newcastle, Delaware really never got off the ground. And that was, again, my fault. That was my fault. And the show in Philly wasn't selling. And to have Buddy
Why do
Rogers,
you think that it wasn't selling? I'm shocked by that.
Well, think about this one. Of all the shows that I did, okay, the show that's still being talked about is the 2 out of 3 falls match with Cactus Jack and Eddie Gilbert.
That was life-changing. For the wrestling fan in me, life-changing.
Okay, that show was the worst attended show I ever had at the Civic Center. I only sold 850 tickets.
Really?
Yep, and that was the summer. It was summer sizzle. It was hot. I sold 850 tickets. That was now keep in mind at the Civic Center I did 1,500, 1,800, 2,200, 850. That was my worst show, and those guys put out big time.
Yeah.
And the reason they put out big time, let's be honest, I paid them for 3 matches. Cactus Jack still tells the story that was one of his biggest paydays before he went to WWF.
Wow.
Because I paid him for 3 matches.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but that was my worst, and that was game changing. 32 years later, still talking about it. Didn't sell.
Scott Teal is great.
Oh, Scott Teal's phenomenal. Okay, and if I ever finish this friggin' book, he'll get the credit. Okay, he and Dan Murphy's are writing my book. Scott Teal is phenomenal, and it's funny because we did a session or sessions where he would call me 5:30. I'm a morning person. He called me 5:30 every morning, and I told him I'll give him 5:30 to 6:30. Ask me a question, and you know me, I give you an hour answer. I'm sorry, you ask me a question, I have an hour answer. Well, we did that for about 3 weeks. And then Scott's a grandfather, and he had to worry about his grandkid for something. And all of a sudden we got off the routine, and I just haven't picked the ball up. But I'm going to get that book finished. But Scott Teal is great, no question.
And Tony's thanking you for answering the Mondo Clean question.
Is he still around?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah, Tony, do you know the answer?
Let's see.
Because I think he also wrestled under another name, Dementia something, Domino Dementia something.
Oh, when he went to Vince, yeah.
Yeah. There you go, Tara Tabor. There you go. That was all my creation. You know, and it's funny, when we did the 4 big shows at the Civic Center, I came up with the names, Autumn Armageddon. That's been used. Summer Scissor, Winter Challenge, and Spring Spectacular.
Yeah.
And so my idea was to have 4 major shows at the Civic Center and then have your little shows along the way. Okay? Yeah. People don't realize how much work goes into putting a show on. And Bay, you know the answer. Okay, Jimmy's promoted too. Picture doing that with a grand scale when you got all these egos coming in. Okay, you're flying people in like crazy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you do a show, you got to book. You got to start promoting the next show at the first, this show, and that's where you do the programs and whatever. And these guys, to be honest, in the independent world, if I said the Cactus you're on every card, and I booked him for my 4 major shows, if he got called to Japan, my shows are done.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what happened with Bigelow. I had Bigelow at every show I could get him on, but he was in Japan. Gangrel was the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and I could only book the black cards, and God bless Luna. She was changing the black cards because of who she married and who she didn't marry. She was changing the black cards like crazy, and she would call me out. I said, nobody cares. Okay, just come up, do what you got to do. And the minute, and I had told Larry this, the minute that we gave the belts to the black cards, we lost control of those belts. At least if it's local, you can basically say, you give me the belts. When they came in, they got the belts.
Right.
Okay, but you couldn't get them for every show. Okay, and the black cards, you knew, like when you had Jimmy with the black cards, you knew the match was going to be wild.
Yeah.
Okay, because they're not going to give you a wrestling hold. Okay, and the black cards were putting the young guys over. Jimmy Jannetty looked better because he wrestled with the black cards.
Yeah.
Okay, Ric Flair used to go into a territory and do a 1-hour match and break and lose, and he never lost to Persona. Okay, because it was a fuck finish, and it was, it's the way he did it. But Tully Blanchard, I used to love Tully. When I had Tully Blanchard against Bam Bam Bigelow, and I told Tully I wanted him to go over. He said, I didn't expect anybody to tell me to ever go over. Okay. He was a guy that he made a science of losing.
Here's a name from the past. Boy Gone Bad was my boy. He worked my gym back in the day, right in the same plaza where WWA ran.
Yeah, we'll see. And Boy Gone, he was on one of my shows at Temple. And again, that was when Dennis and I would talk. The deal was, if I was putting Boy Gone Bad on my show, Dennis controlled the match. It's his guy. Okay, so there was no heat when I had my guys, and my guys didn't. When what I call the main eventers, the DC Drakes, Larry Winners, when those guys wrestled everywhere. They wrestled for the IWA, they wrestled for Rob Rustin, they did. I just didn't want those guys to get buried, and then me bring them in as our champs. There it is.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense.
There you go, Damian Demento. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
he was Johnny Rod's guy. Yeah.
Okay, if that's the case, Johnny's still up in New York, and Johnny's somebody I've never spoken to. Okay, but I'd love to give him a call.
Hot Body wasn't. Yes, he was. He was the first ECW champion.
Yes.
Well, if he was now think about it, if he was the first ECW champion, and they got to the 2300 building because of Johnny Hot Body, how the hell don't they put him over for whatever?
It's when I don't know if you watched the interview I did with Johnny, but it's really like interesting. Saying like, he hooked up Todd with the building. He never got. I mean, something like that. I remember if you would tell us if you hooked me up with a building, we got a kickback. He never got fucking paid.
Well,
nothing for it.
It's weird. I'm noticing that it's about 4 or 5 people that are typing questions, but it's the same 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
So either, I don't know how many people are listening. Okay. I know 4 or 5 are. I don't know if you can see a count as to how many people are listening or not listening.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we've been on here for 2.5 hours.
It's been averaging over 20 people the whole time.
Okay. And I'm telling you, I could talk about this shit all night long. And it's funny, when Jimmy Jenny came on, I could sit and talk I haven't talked to Jimmy, God knows how long. Okay. Are you still doing a wrestling school, Jimmy?
No, we closed it up.
Okay.
Closed it up after COVID.
Okay. So now are you doing anything? You doing anything in the business?
No, I retired.
Okay. See, and that's a loss. That's a loss. But we all ran our cycle. We did what we had to do.
I'll tell you, Hot Body said to me yesterday, and I told Janetti this in a text earlier. Hot Body told me to also tell him that I love you, and he felt and thought that Jannetty should have been the biggest star to come out of Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. He said he was the best worker.
Well, there you go. You know, what's weird, we had, and I'll say this, I don't know if Jimmy Jannetty was the best worker. We all had a lot of best workers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The best worker works with when Jimmy Jannetty did a match with Glenn Osborne,
mm-hmm.
they fed off each other.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I don't know if Jimmy felt it. I felt it. Okay? When I had JT Smith and Sandman, they worked so well together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's what makes the one thing I learned about wrestling. You're only as good as your opponent.
Yeah.
And your job is to make your opponent better than you are. Because that's what works. If you go into a match because you think you're a superstar, that match sucks. Okay? And you can take some of the best names, Terry Funk, classic example, Austin Idol, Buddy Landell. Man, they'll tell you they'll lose every match and they don't care.
Yeah.
As long as they come out looking good, they don't want to get killed. You can learn to lose and go over. Okay? And when we had DC Drake and Larry Winters, do you remember who won what match? Doesn't matter. It's the quality of the match and it's the quality of work in the pair. And look, I'm divorced twice, but the one thing I know about people who've been married 50 years is they work well together. Yeah. Whatever it is, they do something the right way. When you get the right wrestler in the ring, when you put a Kevin Sullivan in the ring, you don't have to worry about anything because Kevin will make sure that the opponent looks good. Okay? When Stan Lane in my show ran up against Al Perez, they fed off each other. That was an opening match. That was one of my opening matches.
Battle of the Heartthrobs.
Okay, and I had Jim Cornette involved with Stan Lane, and somebody mentioned before, did I ever not have somebody that I never worked with Bobby Eaton? Okay, and I had Midnight. I had Jim Cornette. He just didn't. He lived in Huntsville, Alabama, and he was a family man, and he didn't want to travel up to Philadelphia for a match. I never was able to get him. Okay, and oh my God, we could have had such fun. And if you want to think back, I was very fortunate. I was the ring announcer for Crockett for the NWA show. Yeah. When the Horsemen, Tully Blanchard, lost the belts. Okay, and I announced it. And that was right before they went to the WWF. And so Jim Cornette and his guys won the belt, and I always wanted to get Bobby Eaton up, and it never happened. Wow. Never happened. Not that I didn't try, but never happened.
Here's something, a question that both you guys can answer. Thoughts on Stevie Richards, because Richards went through the school with me, and Joel, you were the man behind the school, and actually Jannetty is the guy that finished Richards' training just like he finished mine. And the first match in ECW history was Jimmy Jannetty versus Stevie Richards.
See, and now that, again, I wouldn't know that, but that's a history. To be honest, Stevie Richards looked the part. And I remember when Mike came to me and he came to the school, and again, that just timing was just bad. And he's still in shape.
Yeah.
Okay. And keep in mind, Stevie Richards would be somebody I would bring to the show, assuming he'd come. Okay. But Stevie, and again, I didn't have a lot of interaction with Steve. All I know is he's somebody, again, anytime Stevie Richards wrestles, that's a thought of the TWA. Okay. It's just weird how 32 years later, we still have that, the connection.
Mm-hmm. You want to add anything, Jannetty?
Yeah. I just remember that first match with Stevie, and I never got to apologize for it. I was still green as grass. He was definitely green as grass. It was his first match. Joel, you don't know this, but they did us a 20-minute Broadway in the Bar Wars. They had to do a 20-minute Broadway, in the Bar Wars, that first match for ECW.
Oh my God.
Me too.
Oh my God.
So I have never had the chance to apologize for Stevie Richards, but there is no way that I should have been, and even I was in the business a few years by that point. There was no way that I should have been leading that match. There's no way that match should have been a 20-minute Broadway.
Who was the booker for ECW for that first sets of matches?
It's Larry, wasn't it?
Larry, yeah.
Larry? And Larry told you? No, yeah?
I swear.
Oh,
and
my God.
I don't know how much of it was Todd, but yeah.
That doesn't even sound like Larry.
I don't know what to tell you, honestly.
Wow.
But I was never so scared in my life. 20-minute Broadway in front of two faces, by the way, in front, and wouldn't let us do anything,
Yeah.
halfway through the match, you take it in a different direction. Would not let us go that way. 20-minute legit Broadway.
Unbelievable. See, and what's scary, and in fact, I talked about this yesterday as well. One of my sciences, it's not a science, but when you do a wrestling card, I want the first match to be a main event con match. So I've had Cactus Jack against Eddie Gilbert as a first match. I had Stan Lane against Al Perez as a first match. And my philosophy was first match, then take it down, and then bring it back up. Because the one thing that disturbed the hell out of me was you call a show for 8 o'clock and people show up at 10 after 8. It used to piss me off. And the one thing I always wanted to know that if you got there at 10 after 8, you missed something. Okay, you weren't going to see a dog match. You were going to, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I got the word out. And I did an 8 o'clock show. You get there at 7. Okay, be there at the beginning of the show, because if you remember, every one of my major shows at the Civic Center, I did the ring announcing. I introduced people. Then we had this little girl come out and sing "God Bless America," and then we had the first match. Okay, well, one time I had the first match. Again, I had Stan Lane against Al Perez. I had both guys come on the radio the week before. Okay, just trying to promote the show, and they were both asking to be the first match. So I actually announced from the ring, and you can see it on YouTube, where I got up and I said, you know what? It was on wrestling radio. And I had a piece of paper in my hand on wrestling radio. Everybody wanted to see Al Perez and Stan Lane as the first match. Here we got it. And the place popped. And I still saw people walking in late. It used to kill me. Okay? So we had Battle Royals that were the first match. We had those matches. So I always believed in have a main event style match, then bring it down, and then build it up. Okay? Well, one of the criticisms that I'll take, and I accept it, is on my Civic Center shows, I had 6 or 7 main events. Even the Blackhearts against the Dog Pound was a main event style match.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when at one time I had a barbed wire match between Tony Stetson and Johnny Hotbody. Okay, that was a barbed wire match. That's a main event anywhere. Okay, I used to run angles. DC Drake and Larry Winters would run angles. Okay, nobody ever saw angles on a regular independent card, but we did. Okay, but see, to do a 20-minute Broadway with 2 guys that are relatively green, that had to be tied. There's no way, because Larry was my booker. There's no way. Larry bought into the idea of having a main event first match.
Yeah, I do not know what to tell you. I like I said, I don't know how much of it was Todd or if there was somebody else that was calling that. But
think about this. You just told me history, which I wasn't even aware of. You had Johnny Hotbody as the first champ. You had Stevie Richards against Jimmy as the first match. And we don't get recognition for shit.
You know, it's crazy. Something you probably also don't know. When I was promoting shows, Bob and Lex Ortiz were part of my crew and family, and they started, chipping in with me and backing me. And one of the things they did was And this was Bob presented this idea to me, and he goes, "How about we bring in Al Perez?" I'm like, right away, I'm like, okay. I'm like nervous. I'm like, how much is this going to cost me? He's like, no, no, no. He's like, we'll bring him in. He'll stay with us. We'll take care of it all. He goes, and Jannetty was my champ at the time. He goes, we'll put the strap on him. I'm like, wait a minute. This sounds fucking amazing, but this sounds expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to draw anything. And so we ended up doing it. We did it the first show, and we drew a few hundred people. Nothing spectacular, but it was a great match. And it shocked everybody because we were trying to take that page out of your book where you put the belt on Landell, and nobody was expecting that. Sure. So people were like, Al Perez, like what? And then we came back, and I had Steve Corino against Perez.
Okay.
But then I ended up folding up because I hit my limit and lost $25,000.
Okay. Well, it was weird. There's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And none of them work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
And the reason none of them work is if you drew 200 people.
Yeah.
If the next show you don't draw 400, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I learned. I would have 1,500 people, and then I would do a show at Tabor and draw 200.
Yeah.
Why aren't
I remember you saying that, and Jannetty, I don't know. You tell me if you remember Joel saying this. If you might have said this on the latest radio show, if I had the people that came to my center shows come to my house shows, this wouldn't be happening.
Well, I'll go one better. I had 29,000 listeners per quarter hour for my radio show. There's something called a Q factor.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had 20. If everybody who listened to my show came to my show, I could sell out the Spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay. I had 29,000 listeners and draw 1,500 at the Civic Center. Yeah. So 28,000 people listened to the show that wouldn't buy a ticket. Okay. And it was weird. Somehow or another, the shows that I were putting together, I wasn't drawing the people, the 29,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got my hardcores there.
Right.
But I always felt, and obviously, if I ever got Hulk Hogan, I would sell the building out.
Sure.
Well, Hulk Hogan isn't a wrestler. He's an actor. Yeah. Okay, and what's amazing about Hulk Hogan, he's 11 days older than me. Okay, and I look at him, and God bless him. I mean, he's still, with the bad backs and everything else he's got, the guy's still in shape. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's 70 years old. He'll be 71. He's 11 days older than me. But if I got Hulk Hogan right now to come to the 2300 arena, we'd sell 30,000 tickets. So it's not the show. A lot of people buy it. They're not wrestling fans. They go back into the bulk of the wrestling fans are missing the big picture.
Right.
They don't like wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They don't. Bob Backlund, when Bob Backlund was the champ, he was as entertaining as hell. He was boring.
Yeah.
Okay. But that guy could wrestle. Okay. I saw on video, there was a YouTube video or on Facebook of Big John Studd against Bob Backlund at the Philadelphia Spectrum. Okay. The match went 11 minutes. It was as entertaining as hell. Okay. They advertised Big John Studd as weighing 380 pounds, 6'10". Okay. Now, he wasn't 6'10", and he wasn't 380 pounds.
No.
Point is, the match, they sold seats.
Yeah.
Bob Backlund was as boring as hell, but he sold tickets. Mm-hmm. Okay. So did John Studd. Okay. When they did the strap change, and they went from Backlund to Sheik and Sheik to Hogan. Okay. That changed the wrestling world.
Yeah.
Okay. And Hulk Hogan could wrestle. When he went to Japan, he wrestled.
Yeah, exactly.
Vince doesn't want a wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, I saw something on Facebook today that The Rock did a promo and said that he did a promo about professional wrestling, not the shit that Vince calls it. Okay, the superstars or whatever, the professional wrestlers. So maybe they're making a turn back to some of the old style stuff. I don't know. But I'm telling you, even there's a lot of guys that are involved in the business peripherally now. But even guys like Steve Carino was one, but you got Taz, some of the guys that were independent that have made it. Guess what? The reason that they made it was we created the kind of attitude era that those guys can make money. I'm still convinced Cactus Jack is a multimillionaire, not because I created him, because I didn't, but I took him up a couple notches from where he was.
Oh, I agree.
Okay, and then he ran with it, and I'm in his book. Okay, but at one point he was wrestling. He didn't need me. Yeah. I took him up and got him the notoriety, and that program with Eddie Gilbert. He cashed in.
That took him to the next level, absolutely.
Well, and the funny part is, since January 18th of 92 to this moment, I have not said hello to Cactus. I have not called him, haven't touched base with him, haven't emailed him or texted him. I don't even have his number. Okay? If I went and saw him, I think he would remember who I am.
Hey, I guarantee he would.
Yeah. But
he remembers me. Like the couple of times I've run into him, he looks at me and he says, "I know your face." As soon as I say who I am, he remembers instantly.
I haven't said a word to him in 32 years.
Yeah.
And guess what? He hasn't said a word to me either. I mean, it's two ways.
Yeah, but I'm sure if he saw you in person, he'd totally remember you in a second.
Yep, got me beat.
Joel, do you have any old TWA programs?
No, I wish the hell I did. You know who does?
I do.
Do you?
You remember his name?
Who?
No, I had some.
Oh, okay. He's got some. The guy that published them for me was a guy by the name of Larry Galone. And Larry, he lives in Havertown. And Larry actually lived across the street from my business partner. And so Larry and I talked, I'm going to say this 10 years ago. And Larry told me he saved all the programs. So trust me, Larry Galone, because I know how to get a hold of him, assuming he hasn't changed his phone number. When I get if I do this TWA thing, Larry Galone's going to do the program. And trust me, he has no interest in doing it anymore. We're going to figure it
out. December 14th. It's amazing that people remember these dates. And earlier, when I was posting stuff on a couple ECW groups to promote tonight, people were posting their ticket stubs from shows.
I don't remember this show at all.
Neither do I.
TWA had its last show in Ambler, PA, called Ambler Ambush.
I live right down the street from Ambler. I don't remember that show.
That might have been like your last show.
Yes, somebody has a program from it. Okay.
Hey, Nick, do you have any programs or anything from it? Let us know.
I have no idea. I don't know. I didn't even know I had Ambler Ambush.
Wow. The hell with Todd, but Joel is God.
Hey, well, it's funny. I'm going to change my name from Goodhart to Godhart. That's it.
Oh, let's see.
Gianni, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. And you want to know something? I'm not a god. I stole a phrase from somebody 100 years ago. I was a conduit because I can do it. Okay? I was the guy that took I did it all together because I had a checkbook and my checks cleared. And I was able to get the best of Memphis, the best of Georgia, because I was able to fly guys in. Keep in mind, when I had Jerry Lawler at my Temple shows, it was a Saturday afternoon show. Well, Jerry Lawler does his TV on Saturday mornings. Yeah. Why? He would miss a show for me.
Wow.
Okay? He made more money working for me than he made doing a TV show in Memphis.
I was going to say, he was only paying them guys $15 a match then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Gamble Joe, who's a new name tonight. Hogan tried to throw fire at the Ultimate Warrior in WCW, but it didn't work. Laugh out loud.
No kidding. That's funny. No kidding. Like I said, when Lawler did the fire, that was his idea, and I didn't come up with it. He says, we'll do the finish that way, and I thought that was pretty cool.
One thing I saw in rewatching this ECW stuff, Gilbert threw fire at Road Warrior Hawk.
Okay.
All right. As Zanoli says, Joel's famous line on WWF Sports Entertainment: "It's not sports and it's not entertaining."
I used to say that on the radio all the time. And, I do not watch all the shows. There's no question. Okay. I don't find it entertaining. Okay. And again, I don't watch, I see NXT and I see AEW. I don't watch them religiously. So they very well might be entertaining. Okay. The old school still works. It still works. And it's true. It's not sport. It's not entertaining. Okay. Great. Thank you, Joe. I'm glad you remembered that line.
Johnny Martello, Joel, what in your opinion is the greatest match or angle in TWA history? That's a good question.
To be honest, it was the Blackhearts wearing the straps because nobody expected it. Okay. Now, the other, and I don't know if you call this an angle, when I did the lumberjack match between Terry Funk and Jerry Lawler, and what we did at the Philadelphia Civic Center is you came in, if you wanted to be a lumberjack, you filled out a piece of paper.
I thought that was insane.
I'm sorry?
I thought that was insane.
Not only was it insane, it was legit. It was not a work. It was not a work. We picked 12 names out of a hat. I think it was 12, 3 guys for each side of the ring. One of the guys happened to be Bob McGee.
Yes.
Okay, who does a newsletter. Mm-hmm. Well, the kicker was I had an issue. The issue wasn't that these guys could get hurt. I'm telling you that all 12 of them wanted to get hurt. They wanted Terry Funk to beat the hell out of them. And every time Jerry Lawler threw Terry Funk out, Terry wanted to beat the shit out of all of them. And they would force him in. They would force him back into the ring. I'm telling you, they all wanted to get hurt. Okay? And I had 12 guys. They all had to sign waivers. My insurance people went crazy on me.
I can imagine. Okay?
But this was a total shoot. Now, one other further. When we created Bar Wars, okay, and I don't recall who the match was, we actually had Jimmy, you were involved in this. We had a 2-night contest to determine our Bar Wars champion, which eventually became Tony Stetson. Okay. And so I think it was 16 wrestlers the first night. And and what we did is we had people around the ring pick out the match. So the first 2 names wrestled each other. The next 2 names, legitimate. Then all the boys had to go downstairs to the locker room and figure out the match. And we had to tell you who had to go because we wanted Stetson to be the winner. Okay? We did that on the fly and totally legit. And every one of these wrestlers did a match. They only could go 7 to 10 minutes for the first match. And they were told literally right then and there who they were wrestling and what the angle had to be, what the finish was. And these are green rookie wrestlers, with the exception of Buddy Landell, and I think Bam Bam Bigelow was involved. Okay? And they pulled it off, and Stetson won, and it was great matches. Jimmy, do you remember who you wrestled?
Yeah, Glenn.
Okay, Glenn. That's the luck. Those 2 guys were science. Those 2 guys were funny anywhere you would put them. And that was unbelievable. And that was a totally legit pick names out of a hat. It was not a work.
That's crazy. Joel is God. Thank you for he repeated himself, but thank you again, Johnny. But now he even says you're God.
Well, Gene, get down on your knees and thank you. No, I appreciate the compliment. I really do.
I want you both to know, and I think Bay knows this already. I cannot legitimately say the name of Todd's book without having physical heaves before it happens. So I cannot say that. You will never hear those.
You know the story behind it, you'll really heave.
Never hear those words come out of my mouth.
I'm really curious because I have not read the book, haven't even bought the book, haven't looked at the book. I'm curious, how does Todd come off in the book? Does he
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Jay Sully texted me yesterday, and he says to me, he asked if I read the book yet. I said, I haven't read the book. He said, I'm going to buy you the book because I want you to read it. He said, I can't believe the things he wrote in there about himself and admitted to the world the things he did, especially knowing he has children. He's like, why would he admit these things in public? He said, he goes, I want you to please read this book, and I want your opinion.
I mean, and it's funny. Like I said, I'm writing a book, and I certainly have been taking forever to do it. My book, when you read the book, if it is a wrestling fan's almanac, okay? There's no foul language. There's nothing that you would. I'm telling you that this is an almanac of the history of professional wrestling because I was there. Didn't realize it at the time.
But here's the difference, though. Like, and you just said, like, your book and the way you ran yourself or conducted yourself was as a promoter. Yeah, you had like a little wild side to you, fun side, but Todd, we all knew Todd when he first came in. He was this one person. When I was out of the early ECW part and went back a year and a half later when it was Extreme, Todd was a completely different person. The whole Extreme lifestyle, Todd, became part of, and he was doing drugs. He's sleeping with the groupies. It was a whole different thing now. So it was kind of like, what the hell happened here? And, I've heard, more stories as of late with this whole Todd is God thing. And it's like, holy shit. But I'm not surprised because the things that were going on, I was privy to, and it was insane. It was out of control. It really was.
See, and it's weird. Maybe it's me, and Jimmy could talk more about this. I was the promoter. I wasn't the booker. Okay. I didn't go hang with the boys. That was not me. To me, Todd went over the line. And again, I haven't read the book, but I'm getting the stories. He went over the line. You got to separate yourself. If you're the promoter and you really have say over who's getting the titles, etc., you can't be buddy with your wrestlers. You got to keep a distance a little bit because at some point you're going to tell the guy he's got to do a job.
Yeah.
All right. So to me, I didn't. That was me. That was Larry Winter's job.
Yeah.
Okay. And that wasn't mine. I just didn't. I never went over the line, so I never got into the lifestyle. The only thing that I did, quite frankly, back then is I wore my hair long, and I would wear my sunglasses and the skin boots. That was kind of my trademark. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that was it.
And the satin jacket.
And that was it. Okay. Now, even today, I still do these concerts. When I do the concerts and I go out to introduce them, I wear my sequin jackets and all that bullshit. Okay. But I never put on the boots. So I couldn't pretend I could put the boots on.
Yeah.
On the other hand, a lot of the wrestlers couldn't promote shit. They couldn't sell a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have to recognize what you're doing. Look, I was never a manager. I did management for the ECWA. I sucked at it. Okay? I lasted for a year or two. It was the end of that. If you're good, you figure out your role. Look, the guys that did the Zanolis, the Finnegans, the Malinos, they were perfect referees. Okay? They couldn't wrestle for shit. Well, guess what? I was a guest referee one time in South Philly. I was so out of breath after that, I couldn't breathe. Okay? So you got to recognize what your role is.
Yeah.
And you can't blur it. You can't be more than one. You just can't. And look, even Flair sucked as a booker.
Mm.
Okay? Dusty Rhodes was a great booker.
Yeah.
Okay? And he was able to do both. It's hard. Yeah. And then you especially in the science of wrestling, to be able to tell a story in 10 to 15 minutes and a match, you need to be a professional.
Yeah. And
you can't be worrying about your next 5 matches and going in the back and making sure they're all ready when you're out in the. You can't.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
It's just me. That's just me.
Joel, if you ran ECW, would you have made Chubby tag champ or world champ? No.
No. Chubby, what I would have done is made Chubby the tag champ by himself.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. No, it's weird. Chubby. Now, I didn't see Chubby in his. In fact, to be honest, I have never seen you wrestle.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I saw you in in the Ringmasters. I've never seen you wrestle professionally.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me change that. I only saw you wrestle one time when we did that show in Plymouth meeting, and you were in the Battle Royal.
Oh, the Battle Royal. Yeah.
Okay, that's the only, and that was the only time I've ever physically seen you wrestle.
Yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how good were you?
2.
How about if I tell you you're only as good as your opponent? See, that's the science. You could be a 2, and if you're in the ring with the right guy, you'll look like a 10. So to answer your question, Johnny, it depends upon who he was wrestling against. Because if you wrestled against the Blackhearts, you would look good. Okay? I'm serious.
And have your ass beat and be sore as shit afterwards.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Point is, when I ask you how good you are, it's not how good you are, it's how good your opponent is.
Yeah.
That's the difference, and maybe that's me, but that's what makes you a better wrestler is your opponent.
Zanoli said Ron Shaw recently did a shoot interview with James Romero for WSI.
I gotta get a hold of him. Chubby, you gotta figure it out.
All right, I'll track him down.
We got it. And again, Ron Shaw was our wrestling school. Ron Shaw was never part of the TWA. He managed JC Smith 1 or 2 shows.
Yeah, after I started, he was only there for like a month or 2, and then he left.
Yeah.
Well, he managed Red too. He managed Chet too.
Yeah, that's right. He managed CN.
Oh, really?
He managed a Temple show. Yeah, the Temple University.
Was he? So he was a heel?
He acted as a heel manager.
Really?
It was Chuck. It was Chuck against Chet, and Ron was Chet's manager.
Yep.
Huh.
He was doing some kind of like, I guess, almost like a John Tolis gimmick, like the coach.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I kind of remember that.
He wore a sports jacket. And it's funny because Ron Shaw and Larry Winters made Ringmasters, which created Sandman, which created Jimmy Janae, Ron Shaw had a part of it. Mm-hmm. So I would love to get a hold of Ron.
Okay. Mondo Clean is on Facebook with his birth name, but he's not involved in wrestling. Tony, if you could send me over his Facebook, that'd be awesome.
See, and even though Jimmy's not involved in wrestling. So what? When we're going to do this show, Jimmy will come up. Mondo, if he's still in New York, he'll come down. I hope.
Can we find any TWA footage anywhere?
Okay, well, YouTube has a ton. Okay. Now, the answer to your question is we do have some DVDs. Okay, the problem is the video quality sucks. Man. We did this when video, not today. Christ, today, if you have a wrestling show, everybody's got their fucking phone out, taking videos, and they can't watch an angle. Okay, I'm telling you. Yes, we do have some DVDs. We haven't marketed it all, but if we do the book, if the book is final, you'll have DVDs available.
It sucks. I just wish there was, TV quality filming and footage of that stuff because it was just.
I still have the original tapes.
Yeah, you have. Your dad used to do it, didn't he?
Huh?
He didn't your father used to do something?
Dad,
or the editing.
We started out doing it, and it just it wasn't working out real well. So they had the other guys come in, and I forget his name. James may have been his name.
Yeah, James, the big guy.
Yeah, with the beard.
Yeah.
I don't remember his last name for the life of me.
His name was James Mavrianos.
He was a Greek guy. I remember he was a Greek guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And to be honest, I would try to track him down too.
I still have the original tapes of some of the temple stuff and some of the Civic Center stuff. Wow.
And I'll tell you, the other thing is I'm having some people. I wound up having a bunch of cassette tapes of wrestling radio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm getting some of those put on, so we're going to start marketing them. I don't know who's going to want to hear those things, but I figure, what the hell?
Surprise. Yeah, put them up on YouTube. People listen.
Yeah, well, I'll certainly get a hold of you because you'll get the word out.
Zanoli says we did Breaker versus Wild for a year. That was our Tully versus Magnum TA.
Yep, I'm telling you, I could do that match over. I could do that forever. That match was phenomenal, and those guys are still wrestling, obviously. Those guys did every show. And when I was working with the ECWA and they did shows, I'm telling you, they did shit. I was sat there and I said, that's my DC Drake and Larry Winters. That's exactly what it is. That's why I still say if we ever did a TWA show with some real wrestling in it, those guys, hopefully they'll work. They're my main event. No question.
Dave Westwood, watching on my TV now, but had to comment to say hi to you guys. If I wasn't 140 pounds then, I probably would have went to wrestling school and been a TWA alumni. I spent enough money on the shows.
Well, to me, you could be 140 pounds and still do well. Okay. And, again, there you go. Yeah. Jimmy just raised his hand. It's only as good as who you're wrestling. That's a science that I learned from the Jerry Lawler, Terry Funk, Abdullah the Butcher. I learned from them. It's who you wrestle against. You could put Abdullah Butcher against Jimmy Jannetty, and he'll make Jimmy Jannetty in his heyday, and Abdullah in his heyday, he'd make Jimmy Jannetty look like a star. Okay? And the reason, that's how he put himself over. He improved the wrestler he was wrestling against. So he told me stories when he wrestled Carlos Colon. Colon was a popular guy, but Colon wasn't the kind. Abdullah would just get in the ring and beat the hell out of him. Mm-hmm. And they beat each other up to the point where everybody thought that these guys were great. Abdullah wasn't a great wrestler. Okay? I mean, that's the science. What made Jimmy Jannetty was the ability to wrestle against a Glenn Osborne and make that work. And then others along the way.
All right. Tony says, I am only speaking for myself. He turned me off on his book tour. I'm not a wrestling expert, never worked in the business, but it was Gordon is great and everyone else is an idiot.
That's the name of his next book.
And then the third book is The Evolution of Go-Go Wrestling.
Well, you know what? The kicker really when it comes to wrestling is what makes a promoter is the talent. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, when I did my stuff, I got in the ring, I did my 5 minutes at the beginning, and then I got out.
Yeah.
Okay? The promoter has the right, they're paying the bills, they can do whatever they want. When a promoter then puts himself over, okay, Vince McMahon does, everybody hates Vince. Okay, he was paying the bills, and Austin kept beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't put yourself over. And if that's what Todd's doing, that's his new book. Gordon is great, everyone else is an idiot. There you go.
Did you ever have any experiences with Vince over your time or any
Only one, and he wouldn't remember me. This goes back to when we had the squared circle.
Okay.
Because we were distributing so much of Hulk Hogan's crapola, we got an invitation to Hulk Hogan's party in New York. He had a birthday party. Okay. And it was basically put on by LJN Toys. It wasn't Hulk Hogan's party, but he was there, and we got an invitation. Carmella couldn't go because of the baby. I was able to go. I went up to New York, and I went to the birthday party, and I got to see him for all 2 seconds. Okay. I said hello to Vince. And I said, in fact, I actually said to Vince, you may know who I am because I ripped you on television in Philly. Okay. He didn't know me from Adam. And of course, he said, oh, you're the guy, right. He bullshitted me. I get it. So that's the only interaction I had with Hogan and the only interaction I had with Vince.
How about with the Crockett's, since you were working with them? Was there ever?
One time Carmel and I actually went down to North Carolina and actually met with them.
Okay.
And what had happened was when I was working with Elliot Murnick, they wanted to know his eyes and ears in Philly. So one thing led to the other, and we were selling a lot of Carmel and I wanted to hook up with Crockett and get the T-shirts and the hats and the paraphernalia to the store. So we had an interaction. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that it was good business, okay? And I'm not going to tell you we hit it off and we communicated forever. I'm not going to go there. But we went down to see if we could do some business. But, yeah, we actually met them down in North Carolina. Yeah. But, no, that never took off.
You know.
And in fact, to be honest, when we had with Lawler, I tried to get a lot of Lawler's merchandise up here, and we were tight with Lawler. I mean, Carmelo was really tight.
Yeah.
The problem was you couldn't get it shipped up here, and nobody cared. Nobody was going to wear a Jeff Jarrett shirt. That was the problem. So even though we hooked up with these different little territories, it didn't mean that Austin Idol had some great merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have sold one shirt. Okay, so it just depends.
Yeah.
It really depends.
Wow.
I could have sold more Jimmy Giannetti shirts than I would have said Jeff Jarrett shirts.
Yeah, you'd have sold 2 Jimmy Giannetti shirts.
That's 2 more than I would have sold Jeff Jarrett. There you go.
And they both would have been to my family.
I was just going to say that. No, that's not true, because you had like a little there was like a what should I say, a harem.
Let's behave ourselves.
Yeah.
How about Chubby Dudley? Any Chubby Dudley shirts?
Not yet. That's the thing. So I there's the website Pro Wrestling Tees. I got approved to get on there, and I had a guy who was doing my graphics, and I made a deal with him to design my shirts. And
hey, look, we used to have Carmella and I think it was more Carm than me. Carmella and I came up with a shirt, and it said, "We're out of the closet, no longer meek. I'm finally admitting I'm a wrestling freak." Okay. I still think we'd sell some of those shirts.
Probably would.
Then you talk about Steve Truitt, Steve Wonderful. He created our logo, the TWA logo.
Yeah.
Okay, and we had that on shirts, and to this day, I still see the logo pop up every once in a while. I got to get Stevie involved, and we'll do more shirts.
I'm gonna hook you. Like doing all. That's what I like. Doing all this has been so much fun, and it's been great reconnecting with everybody again. It's been so much fun.
I love this stuff. Think about this. If not for you, Chubby, I haven't talked to Jimmy in 30 years. Yeah. Okay, I got to talk more to Jimmy tonight than I have in 30 years. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Jimmy was somebody that grew up in the same neighborhood I grew up in. And when I first met Jimmy didn't tell me he wanted to be a wrestler. He worked for me for security and all that kind of stuff, and one thing just led to the other. And then all of a sudden, I see him getting his ass kicked in the ring.
Every time in the ring.
It was great. Absolutely. It was just good. It was good stuff.
The first time, honestly, that I heard Joel's and Carmella on the radio was a talk radio show after midnight. It wasn't you guys. It wasn't your show, but you were on somebody's talk show talking about the radio show.
It's very possible.
That's how I found out about it, and started coming to the events. I was part of the Schlub Club.
The story. I love these stories. Okay, no one. I did not sit back and say, "How do I get and find the Jimmy Giannettis of the world?" They found me. They found Carmella. Okay, the Sheik found me. I mean, this. I'm telling you, this is the way the radio people found me.
Well, Jay Sully, when I had no idea how he was involved in all, and he was telling me he was a wrestling fan and a member of the Squared Circle fan club. That's how he got involved in the business.
I'm swear to God, and it's just in hindsight, we could have done so much more. Okay, but I'm glad that we got accomplished what we got accomplished. Okay, and I'm telling you, if we ever do this reunion of some kind, and I'm telling you, I'm getting the itch. And keep in mind, we might do it and draw 3 people. I don't think so.
It might just be us 3.
Okay, well, the kicker is if we do a show and we get the talent and we get the people and we promote it correctly, again, we'll get the hardcores. Unfortunately, I don't know how many numbers there are because they're slowly but surely fading away. I mean, Jimmy Giannetti now isn't in the business anymore. So the fact that you talk to him and and we'll get him involved, and we're liable to put the show on, and Jimmy's liable to turn around and say he doesn't want to get involved. Not everybody wants to be involved in this thing. Okay, if we do it,
I'll be there.
I count on him being there. Okay, but everybody's got their own opinions.
Are you going to check out any of the festivities during WrestleMania week?
I have no intention of going. And WrestleMania week, again, WWE doesn't do shit for me. Okay, now here it's going to be in Philly. There's going to be festivities all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, I'm old school.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think WWE fans are wrestling fans. That's just me.
It's what it is. Somebody, it might have been Hot Body who said it in the interview with him that WWE is more Hollywood than anything else now.
Yeah, it is. Look, when Vince McMahon appeared in front of the New Jersey legislature and said wrestling is fake, it's all show. I'm here to tell you that, guess what? If you do the card the right way, I get it. If the finishes are predetermined and the times are predetermined, everything else, they're kicking each other's ass.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not fake. Now, you watch WWF, it's all showbiz. Okay, it is what they think is sports entertainment. It's not sport, it's not entertainment.
Yeah.
So the WrestleMania, and I get what's good for Philadelphia, I get all that kind of stuff. I have no desire, none. Okay, and again, maybe it's just I'm stale. Okay, I'd rather, I hate to say it, I'd rather see Breakum Ray and Chris Wilder in a match than watch the WrestleMania. That might sound crazy. Okay, and today those guys, I'm not the Tony Stetson and John Honey bodies. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Today, when you can get, again, I'm just giving Breakum Ray and Chris Wilder and get them to do a match, and you can watch that. That's worth the price of admission.
Mm.
Okay, but The Rock is not it's just not for me. And again, good, bad, or indifferent. It's just not my style.
What are your thoughts on another thing that's very different with the business now is the whole explosion of the women.
Oh, the women are phenomenal.
I think it's more. I rather watch the women more than the guys anymore.
When I watch Charlotte Flair, Ashley wrestle, she's phenomenal. She's doing shit that men won't do.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you watch some of these women, the neat thing, it's funny. I would rather watch women's basketball than men's basketball. Okay.
Okay.
The reason for that is the women can't dunk. Okay, so they have to shoot.
Right.
Man, these guys are all hot dogs. They're all doing three-pointers and dunks.
Yeah.
Women give you a better basketball game. Well, guess what? These women are wrestling. They are killing each other. Okay, and I think that the women, there's an explosion for a reason. These girls are really good.
Yeah, they are.
They're entertaining as hell. And women, women can get away wearing stuff that men can't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so some of these women, they're half naked wrestling. Okay, and they're wrestling. I think they're more old school in what they do than the guys are.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I don't know, but like I said, when I watch Charlotte do her stuff, I mean, she's built, okay, and she's a Flair, and the girl can wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
She can do a match. And I'll tell you what the girls also do well. They also tell a story. They are telling a story, and I forget the girl's name who's got the really long hair.
The one that whips people with their hair.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, she's taking a gimmick. She's taking a gimmick and making it work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I like the women. I like the women for sure.
Bianca Belair is that girl's name.
That's it, Bianca Belair. Okay, and she makes it work. So to answer your question, I think I think the women are more entertaining than the men.
Yeah, I've been saying that. I agree.
Yeah.
You touched on this a little bit the other night too in the interview you did with Cheap Heat. Social media.
The answer is I don't have the time. To be honest, if somebody wanted to put together the stuff for me, I would give them permission to do it. The problem with social media is how do you translate that into money? Now, to be honest, if we were going to put the TWA card together, I would do social media. Okay? To put social media just to have Joel Goodhart out there, it doesn't do anything for me.
Right.
Okay? But if I had a game plan at TWA, I would you know what you're doing, but I'll hire you in a second.
Well, here's the thing. and Janetti, when I ask this question, Kirk, I'm sure you'll back me up on this, and I think Joel, you'll probably back me up too. But Joel, you've said now for 3 hours and 20 minutes, you're getting the bug, you're getting the itch.
Yep.
Do you think honestly you could turn around and do this and do one show and that's it?
Believe it or not, no.
Okay.
But the question is how to make it work. Okay. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm busy. Okay. So it's not like I'm retired at the age of 70. I'm not retired. I'm busy in hell. I got clients up the wazoo.
Mm-hmm.
I can spend 2 or 3 hours with a client and make a living.
Yeah.
Okay. This 3 hours, I do this for enjoyment.
Sure.
Okay. I'm not looking to make a living doing this. Now, if we did a TWA show, yes, I would like to have TWA shirts. Yes, I would like to have Stevie do some shirts for us. Yes, I would like to have social media, look up all the websites that have wrestling and get this out there. What's his name on Cheap Heat yesterday said that he would come down from Canada for this show.
Right.
Okay. Well, guess what? At some point, we got to sell tickets. I mean, how bad do I want to do it? I don't know. Do you think I'm going to run in and call up the guys and get this whole? Somehow, somebody's got to take the lead. Now, I heard that Mike Bruno wants to do the show. I've heard that Breaker wants to do the show. You know what? If I don't do it, it ain't getting done the right way. Okay. So if they call me, yes, we can put something together. You want to know something? I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I'm going to get Jimmy Jetty off his ass. And we're going to get him involved in something. If he's going to sit on here for 2 hours and listen to my bullshit, he's going to do something. Okay? I don't know what he's capable of doing. I'm not even sure. Jimmy, what do you do for a living?
I'm retired.
You're retired? God fucking, it's unbelievable. He's retired. I'm not retired. Okay? He's retired. That, you know what that tells me? He's got time. Okay? I'm going to get him to do something.
He said yes, but he said no.
I'll figure something out, okay? But he's going to be sitting in Florida doing something for us. If he's coming to the show, we should have a Jimmy Janetti TWA shirt, right? Don't you think we should have one of those?
Yeah, but like I said, you won't sell the one. But
well, my point is there's more to this than just meets the eye. First of all, if we were going to do a show, to be honest with you, I'd be doing it for the next spring. It takes a year to put this shit together.
It's got to be something different and special.
Yeah, well, you said you have an idea, so I want to hear it.
And I'm not going to say it on air. Okay. But the idea I have is a little different and a little special.
Okay, that's cool. All right,
because it can't be the same. The same shit's been done over and over. I mean, in all honesty, and no disrespect to any of the possible workers that could be on the show, but it's all been done over and over and over and over.
Well, I'll tell you, one of them in the TWA Temple, one of the matches we had was Misty Blue against Cat LaRue.
Yes.
And I heard that Cat just passed away. Okay.
Oh.
But Misty, I think, is still around.
Yes.
I don't know where she's at. I'd love to find her. Okay.
Yeah,
Chief Jewel Strongbow. Okay. I know he's still around.
Is he still around? Okay.
I believe. Okay. He was on my first show. He was the opening match against that Randy He-Man Lewis. Boy, was that a dog match. Oh, my God. Horrible. Horrible. But, you know, if we ever did it, and again, based on some ideas, there's just a lot. There's just a lot of people. When you go to these icons, the icons never have Chief Joel Strongbow because, quite frankly, nobody wants his autograph. Nobody wants a picture. You want to know something? If we had Misty Blue, Chief Joel Strong, I mean, Dr. Tom Pritchard, I know doesn't do many of these. Okay, but I saw him. He did an icon for Rob a couple of years back, and I happened to see him there. And we talked about it because he was on one of my first shows against Ted Petty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's something to be the old school that is left. And that's half the problem is slowly but surely we're all dying off.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's if I died tomorrow, I don't believe the TWA dies because I wasn't the TWA. I was the spark, but the TWA lives on forever. I do believe that. Okay. I do believe it.
Oh, wait. Okay. So Johnny says Misty Blue is around. She's booked for a convention in Charlotte in August.
There you go. I mean, I know that they're around. Whether they would want to come to a show and you know, and I don't need them to work.
Yeah.
But if we had a convention, it wouldn't draw. Okay. I mean, even Virgil used to do signatures for money, and now he just passed away. Okay. I mean, we got to get these people in before they pass. So,
Joe asked, wasn't Virgil on an early show?
Yeah, not on my show. No, nope.
No, he was at the NWF shows.
Yeah,
Kane stuff for Drake.
We had spoken. He never worked for me.
Okay. Well, Joel, this has been amazing. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is 3.5 hours, and I'm still getting ready to get started.
Hey, you said 24 hours.
That's it. No. I appreciate. First of all, I appreciate all the compliments that were sent in from the viewers. I do appreciate the comments. I really appreciate Chubby me hooking up with Jimmy Giannetti. Okay, Jimmy.
I knew you would like that.
If you don't mind, I'm going to get your phone number from Chubby and give you a call.
Please. Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
And
I thought you had it before.
I'm sorry?
I thought you had it since it's the same number as 2009, to be honest.
Wait. Let me just see. I don't think I do, but let me just check. Hold it. I'll kill some more time here. Under J for Giannetti. Let's see. Giannetti. Oh, I do. Well, let me ask you a question. I won't give the number.
3934.
3934. I do have it. All right. I got the number. So I will definitely give you a call.
Yeah, please. Anytime.
And Chubby, let's keep in touch for sure. Jimmy, I will give you a call. We'll talk.
I got a couple more newbies here. We got Inagata DeVita mentioning rest in peace Virgil, and also about Arn Anderson was the most underrated worker, and they also had commented rest in peace Ole Anderson.
No, let me tell you something. Arn Anderson was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, here's a quick. You see Inagata DeVita, which used to be it was the song for Iron Butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The first concert at the Spectrum here in Philadelphia. Okay. Iron Butterfly was the main event. Who was their opener?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who?
The Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead opened for the Iron Butterfly.
And that was the first concert at the Spectrum?
First concert at the Spectrum.
Really?
Yep. Iron Butterfly opened up. Can you believe that? And of course, they're still around, and then got to be Iron Butterfly is not, working with
Peter
Owen Hart. He was,
yes.
Yep, he was a true professional. Okay, and he was interesting. I got him to come in. He was actually wrestling in Mexico, and I had him come. And again, expensive. and I had him work that match. The ring ropes broke.
Oh yeah.
The ring ropes broke, and they still worked around it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I keep forgetting his name. The fellow that he wrestled from Japan.
Takayuka Izuka.
He just passed away too.
Really?
Yeah, I heard he passed away earlier this year or end of last year.
Oh wow. Jeez.
Yeah, I might be wrong. Hopefully somebody will tell me I'm wrong. But when Owen did that match and the ring ropes broke, here I spent a fortune. I'll never forget also the day before I met the guys at the airport that came in from Japan. He flew in from Japan and Owen Hart flew in from Mexico. That was an expensive match.
Yeah.
But if you watch that match on YouTube, at the end of the match, the entire building stood up and applauded.
Mm-hmm.
All the marks recognized what that match really meant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Sure.
here I had matches where people were brawling all over the place. They basically stayed in the ring. They went out of the ring a little bit, but they stayed in the ring and everybody applauded because they understood what that match meant.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that was my deal. I was going to have a deal with Japan for every match. I was going to have one of the guys on one of their matches. And the reason was they wanted the magazine coverage. Goes back to the magazines.
Takayuka Izuka is
there
alive and well.
Good. God bless. Then I heard something wrong. Thank you for Nick for giving me that information because I don't know if he'll remember coming to Philadelphia. Okay, but that match with Owen Hart was again, didn't sell any tickets. The hardcores were coming no matter what.
All right. How about where are the old TWA titles?
Oh, well, the belts, Todd Gordon took the belt.
Yeah.
And the heavyweight belt for ECW was my belt.
Mm-hmm.
So those belts, I don't know what happened to the ring curtain. I don't know what happened to the belts. Todd took the belts.
I think one of the tag titles became the television title originally.
Okay. I mean, he didn't.
That's all
Yeah,
I'd always heard. I don't remember.
He didn't go and make new belts. I can tell you that. He used my belt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Inagata Davida is asking your take on Vince McMahon.
Oh, well, I don't like him. Never liked him. He killed the sport, but he's a billionaire and did successful things. So he made money at something I couldn't make any money at. Now, it depends upon what your definition of successful is. I don't think he's a wrestling promoter. Okay, and again, that's just I'm still old. I'm still anti-WWE, WWF. I'm still they are. I said on the radio they were the Harlem Globetrotters of professional wrestling.
Mm.
That was I talked about that on the radio. Okay, if you go to a Harlem Globetrotters, it's professional basketball.
Yeah,
but it's not basketball. If that makes any sense.
Sports entertainment.
It's not sports and it's not entertainment. I don't like that name. Thank you, Joe Zanoli, for reminding me of that.
How about, beside Flair, who was a wrestler you would have loved to have gotten in TWA?
Piper.
Ooh.
I'm sorry?
Piper.
Well, it goes back to if you're talking about Piper, there's no question. Piper. Keep in mind, Piper never wore a belt. I mean, really, in the W, he never wore a belt, and he was over so big it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about a wrestler, I would have loved to have gotten in TWA for a show. The way they question here for a show, the answer is still Flair. I still wanted to get Flair in for one show. Okay, Piper. See, Piper, you bring him in for one. No, you got to bring Piper in for a whole program. Okay, Piper was phenomenal. The one wrestler. Well, God. Before we had TWA, Carmel and I did a show in Atco, New Jersey. Okay, and we had Dick Slater on that card.
Okay.
I would have loved to have Dick Slater in the TWA because he was one of those. You just put him in the ring, tell him who his opponent is, you got yourself a match.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other one that we had on that card was Tommy Rich.
Mm.
Okay, Tommy was another one. He never was in the TWA. Again, the old school guys down south, just put him in the ring.
Yeah.
They know what they got to do. You don't have to tell them anything. So the answer to your question, Peter, Tommy Rich, Dick Slater for sure, and Tommy Rich.
Inagata Davida is actually asking about Vince with the recent allegations.
We want to know something. You can make allegations about anybody. Okay, I don't know if they're true or they're not true. That's what you have a court of law for. But I'll say this publicly. I'm a Trump guy. Okay, and I don't care what your politics are. I'm a Trump guy. He's got 91 charges and not one of them are real. Okay, and I don't believe a single one of those damn things. Now that's me. Okay, so the allegations, they could be all false or they could be all real. Let the court of law determine it. Okay, but Vince McMahon is a billionaire, probably several times over. His family is financially secure, and it's all because of what he perceives as wrestling. Okay, and he did what his father would never want him to do. His father turns over in his grave all the time. Okay, because his father respected the territories.
Yeah.
Okay, and what Vince decided was, I can blow away the territories, and he did. But we all keep trying. Jimmy's not, but we're all trying to figure out where our territory is. Okay, and what he decided was the whole world's his territory. And guess what? He made money and I didn't. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I'm trying to like. Yeah, I don't know. There's this.
Yeah. Again, and the kicker is there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, look, we've all been in the dressing room. We've all been in the back. We all know what goes on. Having cheap sex is not a problem.
Well, there's a difference between cheap sex and when you're paying people millions of dollars. I mean, cheap sex.
Well, guess what? That's my point. I mean, what he did or what he did, allegations. God, more. If he's going to go to jail, if what they say he did, he should go to jail.
Yeah.
Just prove it. And if they can prove it, he's got himself a problem.
Yep. I mean, I think he's guilty as fuck, but I don't think he'll go to jail.
Well,
I think
guess what? If
pay
he's guilty,
pay millions or billions of dollars and walk away.
Yeah, well, and guess what? If he does that, if the woman who he did it to accepts $10 million, who's at fault?
Oh, she's.
Thank you.
Totally.
Okay, so the allegations are what they are until you're innocent until proven guilty.
Well, she was going to accept $3 million, but he only gave her $1 million and stopped paying after that.
that's typical of Vince. That's it.
And that the only reason, everything was fine and dandy while she was getting paid, and then he stops paying, and then all of a sudden, so.
Well, and again, whatever the charges are, if it goes to court and he's found guilty, he's found guilty. I mean, I got enough issues with my life for me to worry about his life.
Yeah, exactly. As scummy that Vince McMahon is, somehow the guy always comes out smelling like a rose.
Well, guess what? When you're worth $1 billion, you can do that.
There you go.
Okay. I mean, and the reality is, look, I think we've all been in situations that you can get three sides to the story.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Vince has got one side, the woman's got another, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you just got to find it. But again, they'll work. If they want to hang him, they'll hang him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that has nothing to do with wrestling.
No. Exactly.
Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Janetti, anything you want to add on anything?
No, I'm very happy to see Joel. Again, I haven't seen you since 2009.
Yeah.
That TWA show, and talked to you. I think a little bit after that, a couple times about getting
Yeah,
Jimmy
that's
Valiant's
it.
number or whatever the case. But yeah, so I'm happy to see you. Happy to see you're doing well. Happy to say hi to everybody.
Yep. And I will definitely, like I said, I got your number. I'll give you a call. We'll definitely keep in touch for sure. And we're going to get you up here at some point.
Yeah. So yeah, and you know what? We got to get David Gangrel up too.
Oh yeah. Well, I saw him at one of these Icon shows. When you see him, tell him I said hello.
I will.
Okay, for sure.
I do go to the school there. He's working with another school down here in Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, CCW.
Oh yeah, Nelia.
Yeah, Nelio and them. And he's doing well there. Good people that are there. Mm-hmm. So I do go occasionally, but yeah,
he worked hard.
At some point, I was banging my head against the wall.
No, tell him I said hello, and like I said, he worked hard for me.
Hey.
You know, and I didn't have to tell him a thing. Gangrel will tell you. Yeah. Okay, Luna kind of controlled it, but I didn't tell him a thing.
No.
And that's why I say those are the kind of guys I love. The stick slaters, whatever you just put them in the ring, they know what they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get guys like Chubby Dudley that fuck it all up.
Because I knew how to fuck it all up. That's what I knew how to do.
I've never seen you wrestle. I got to find an old tape somewhere.
Yeah, I lost my tapes in my divorce.
Boy, we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's good.
Yeah. But well, all right. If anybody wants to get a hold of Joel, he is on Facebook, or you can hit me up and I can connect the dots for you. Stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you go down below and subscribe. We're going to what I want to do, and I'm going to throw this out here while Joel's on here now. I want to get like 2 more of these and get like Johnny and Tony on here and Ginoli, and just I do like little reunions and little. Like maybe come up with like a topic or something, or maybe we'll like dissect some shows. We'll talk about some of the big shows and just.
I will come on anytime. Okay. So if you get Stetson and hot body, you want a third body, I'm doing it. I'm telling you, I love this stuff. We talked for 3 hours and 43 minutes, and this thing went in no time.
Yeah. The funniest one was definitely so far the Stetson one, because we sat here the whole time drinking. By hour 2, Tony's a little buzzed. By hour 3, Tony's pretty shit-faced.
Yes. Yes.
And he called me the next day, and he's like, I was so drunk. He's like, I was late for work. He's like, I was cursing you this morning. But
those were the days. But if you want to get Stetson Hot Body on one with me, I'll do it in a second.
Awesome.
Okay, if you want to get Glenn Osborne and Jimmy Giannetti on, I think that would be a great show.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, when I came for my tryout, I had some friends with me. We all tried out, and you were like, all right, sit down on the floor and watch this match. And you had Glenn and Giannetti work a match. And I remember saying to myself, this shit is real. I don't know if I can do this.
I'm telling you. And again, when I did the shows at the Civic Center, that was my goal. Was somewhere in the match, you look over to the person you're with and go, holy shit, this is real. And again, that goes back to my old rule of thumb that everybody has a front row seat at some point during the show. When the guys would go outside the ring, the art of wrestling has to disappear.
Yeah.
Okay? When you're in the ring and in a cage, you can do the art of wrestling, and you don't even hit anybody if you do it right. But when you're outside the ring, you got to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, the guys and the top name guys, the Terry Funks, the Kevin Sullivans, they knew it had to get done.
Yeah.
And they, at their stage, they didn't have to do it. Okay, I still see Kevin Sullivan to this day, Kevin Sullivan still says to me, he wishes I stayed in the business. Okay, he says that to me all the time.
Yeah, he's still working down here.
Yeah, I saw Kevin at a signing I did down here last year, and we were sitting next to each other, and yeah, good guy.
Well, keep in mind, how many shows did you ever go to where you had Woman and Fallen Angel both on the same card?
Yeah.
And I did it. And when I asked Woman to do that, she jumped at the idea. Nobody else ever asked her, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
I got them both on this. Oh my God, she was sitting in the back, messing around with her hair. Okay, but I got them both on the same card, and nobody, unless you guys know someplace, nobody else did it. And when I asked her to do it, she said nobody else ever asked her.
I don't think she ever did that anywhere else. That was the only place.
No, she did it. She did it for me. God bless her. It's another one we love.
Here's a story that's got to be told. You know, because Joel came up with the whole Jimmy Jannetty gimmick. I'm sorry, are you related to Marty?
No. And you know what? God bless him. Joel, I've always thought, no matter what, that when you gave me that name, it was a rib. That it was a rib. You're dealing. I was a kid from 14 years old. I was at every squared circle thing for everything. I was there every time. Didn't matter what it was. Wrestling shows, the luncheons, whatever the hell it was, I was there. So all of these people that I am trying to wrestle in front of were people that knew me for years before. And now I'm trying to get Jimmy Jannetty, a guy from Columbus, Georgia, over with Philadelphia wrestling fans. Joel, it had to be a rib. Tell me it was a rib.
No, and I'll tell you where this all came from. When we were trying to figure out your gimmick. If you remember when Marty Jannetty took the punch from Shawn Michaels through the glass.
Yeah.
Okay. He reminded me of you. Okay, and that's where we came up with the Jannetty. And in fact, if I remember correctly, Larry's the one that gave you Jimmy Jannetty. Okay, but yep, I came up with the Jannetty because I thought you looked like Marty Jannetty taking the hit.
See that?
I still think it's a rib.
Okay,
but anyway,
it wasn't a rib.
Yeah, I've kept that name for all these years, and to a detriment. They even tried to change my name.
Whenever like a lead balloon.
Yeah, he wouldn't go, but no. And I got to wrestle against Marty one time.
There you go.
So it was Raven and I against Rich Myers and Marty Jannetty in Maryland.
Now, did you wrestle as Jimmy Jannetty with Marty in the ring?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And a little while after that is when they formed the New Rockers with Al Snow. And a few years ago, somebody had asked me, they said, why didn't I team with Marty for the New Rockers? And I said, well, to be honest, Al Snow lost the coin toss.
He'd probably agree with you.
Yeah, I'm sure he would.
That's great. That's
funny. All right, on that note, let's wrap it up, guys. Thanks again so much for doing this, Joel. Jannetty, I love you. I love you both. Thank you.
Love you guys.
No problem. Anytime, guys, for sure. And Jimmy, I'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up. Good night. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We had a fun night. Stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to find out what's coming up next on Chewin the Fat. And also go over to the Chubby Dudley Facebook page and keep abreast of everything going on. And until next time, see ya.
I get to